Wat weet hulle? Geen kop.
Hoe ver is nog Janie?
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
This morning I'm sharing the stage with guinea fowl, and quite a few of them, as you can see. They're sharing the stage with guinea fowl and barking dogs in a residential area here in Somerset West.
In the heart of shadows where headlines grow, a name engraved in whispers and undertow. Ambassador, no title, now it seems so Walls talk back and windows cry. Boundaries drawn under heavy skies. In the space between the set and scene lies a story that cuts unclean. Hold the ties that thread entangled tight. Diplomatic dances in the cold moonlight. A step misplaced and the stage does sway. Persona non grata carried far away. Persona non grata carried far away.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
You can't cancel all of us. We're standing here side by side. The internet ain't real life, folks. The internet ain't real life. Welcome back to the program. It is Sunday morning. For much of the world, it's still Saturday night here on the East Coast of the United States. Apparently, the introduction's too long on a Saturday night. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Something better you got to do with your time? That's fine. I'll stop twisting your arm to be here. But thank you for being here just the same. Hello, folks. Guy Wheelwright became a member. Thank you for that, Guy. Endo's here. Gideon Maloney, Jennifer Lisa Patton, Venezia Rind. Jack Starr's back. Still not trying to figure out what Jack Starr's doing here. Marika van Wyk, Mandy van Rooyen, Xander van Rensburg, David Delport. Thank you for your membership. Sarena 1, Bota families here. Mau Mau. Julie, AJ Quinn, Chris Marie, Michael Magda, Bradenhan Peterse. Welcome to you. Wow. Yolanda, Robert Franklin Moore. Good morning to you. Dougie Raymond. Welcome all the Neanderthals, K9, K-Dogs, future FEMA tent campers, Americaners, trolls, soon-to-be Rasooled race baiters, and their favorite right-wing podcaster. Welcome back to the program, folks. Sarita Felipe, welcome to you. Demon Dirk 123 Gaming, welcome to you. Loretta, Yapi Brand, Troiko Hawkeye, Dougie Raymond, Psycho Billy, Peter John Vust, Hendo, Sarita Flippa, and Pale Dragon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody. Odin's Viking, Steve Newbold, good morning to you. And Idaho Garden Girl, thank you for your membership. It's been 36 months you've been a member. Wow, thank you so much. Heine Fleury, welcome. Chris Ferreira, good morning to you. And who else we got here? Steve Newbold, Carlo Freda. Did I miss anybody? Hank Duploy, Loretta. I think I've caught everybody here. Probably missing a few. Apologize for that. Couldn't catch everybody. Bruce thinks it's a long intro. Bye. Bye, Bruce. Bye. Yeah, so... Wow. Too bad for you. Too bad for you, Bruce. Wow. Wow, you waited all 6 minutes. It's too long. Well, I guess you've got more important things to do at this hour. Must be a fire next door to put out somewhere in your neighborhood. And maybe there's a home invasion you could go help someone with. Or maybe there's been an accident outside. You can render first aid. I don't know. That's something important you've got to do. It is, after all, midnight here in the East Coast and 6 a.m. in South Africa. I'm not really sure what the fire is there, Bruce, but if you've got to take care of something, by all means, feel free to take care of it. We don't want to hold you back and keep you from whatever important engagement you've got to do there, Bruce. I mean, Chow, of course, Chow is not spelled C-H-O-W, it's C-I-A-O, Chow. But you take care, brother. Sorry we interrupted your busy morning or evening or whatever time it is there that we forced you to twist your arm and made you come in here and listen to this program. It's a heartbreaker. I realize I will call back my agents who showed up at your home and forced you to watch it. I mean, that's tragic. I mean, I really wish we wouldn't do that. Again, I admonish my viewers who went to Bruce's place and forced him to watch the program. It's so mean of you. Stop that. Don't do that anymore. It's really mean. He's got important things to do at 5:45 in the morning or quarter to midnight here on the East Coast. So let's not interfere with his life. Angelo, what's going on, brother? The news is broken. The likes of Adrian. Yeah. Dictate narrative. Well, we're trying to overcome that. Steve is beating load shedding with solar power. Well, that's cool. I have solar power. How did I do today? Let's see. I'm having a better month this year than I did in March of last year. I don't know what the difference was last year. I must have more bad weather. But this year, we're up to 834 kilowatt hours. I think last year at this time, let's go back. Let me jump to 2024 in March. I got 793. So I'm already, 793? So jump this year. And 34 and 7 is 41 kilowatt hours more. And I've still got 30 and 31 to go. 2 more days. Hopefully the weather's good and we can just crush it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so 834, 1.84 kilowatt hours this year, January, February, March. Not great, but it's not bad. Oh, Jack Star likes something. Okay, cool. All right, what else we got there? Felicia Munder says, you go, Colonel. They can't cancel all of us. That is brilliant. Steve, Tom McDonald, brilliant stuff. The truth is valuable. Morning to you. Insomnia. Okay. Condensed milk with a spot of Jack Daniels, says Newbold. Okay. Good morning, peoples. Putty tight. Okay. Party time. Kettle bowling for second. Java Cup. Amanda Lowe, welcome to you. And Gibran Hendo, Jack Star. I already said that. And I'm a little bit behind now. Gadget 357. Agnes Fundemalva, welcome to you. Okay. Dan Bailey's in from Utah. What's going on, Dan? Dan, are you busy at this hour? Are we interrupting your busy? We were keeping Bruce from something very important. He was waiting for something. Not sure what it was. I guess he expected a free show. I don't know, maybe an OnlyFans, but an OnlyFans production at this hour. I'm not sure what Bruce was waiting on there. Apparently, we're not allowed to share our joy and music on this program. It interfered with something Bruce was doing. So my apologies for that. Hopefully, Dan, that doesn't interfere. I know it's only 10:47, not quite late out there in Idaho, and you're busy, or not in Wyoming, excuse me. You're busy looking for Burmeisi, arriving, the early scouts from the Burmeisi crowd arriving in Wyoming early. So that's why you're here. We know, Dan. We figured it out what's going on. Dan's looking for a wife. That's what's going on, man. All right. Kevin Sorbo, music engineer, gives me an idea for Sunday movie. Well, Sarah Skuman, I should let you know that I've been in touch with Kevin Sorbo, and he will be back on my program as a guest in April. That's right. Funny you should mention that. I saw him in that music video from Tom McDonald, and I wrote to him and invited him back on the program. He was last on the program in 2022. Kevin Sorbo answered my email pretty quickly. I just got to give him a date. Look at that, man. Kevin Sorbo will be back on the program. Looking forward to it. Angelo loves the humor. Cool beans. 2 hours to church. Salem's Cave. Welcome to you. And Neil Maxwell, what's up? Well, Neil, we're intruding on people's time with his interminably long delays to start the program. I mean, people have stuff to do. They have places to go. They have Hemsbach to hunt. Damn it, man. Captain, it's all I can give you. No more power. She's gonna blow, Captain. The dilithium crystals are breaking. Please stop the damn show. The dilithium crystals are cracking. Anyway, so Drucker, welcome to you. Dan says, no, I'm free. I'm free, man. I got time. Relax. Dan. What do you say here? It's all good. Okay. Spill the beans, says no. Where are the Wyatt Tent Army shirts? Working on it. Truth is valuable. Be patient. Be patient. Be patient. Did you like me taking over Byron's channel? Somebody didn't like that. I thought it was funny. Byron asked me to do an interview, so I went there. So can't cancel all of us. Yeah, so this was me on Byron on Morning Shot. Yeah, so we'll just do a little clip of that very quickly, show you what was going on there. So let's see. Here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome back to Morning Shot. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's not Byron. It's Chris Wyatt. I'm your host for today's Morning Shot interview, and my guest is none other than Byron from Morning Shot. Byron, how's it going?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on my own show. It's nice to be a guest on Morning Show.
Yeah, it's about time. It's long overdue that we got you on the program. By the way, for folks, there's a lot of expropriation going on in South Africa. I've expropriated Morning Shot. It's now my property. We're broadcasting live from central Pennsylvania. No, but seriously, we thought it was time that people got to know a little bit about Byron. A lot of people went. That was the big secret. So Morning Shot, that one's doing okay. It's got 40,000 views. Anyway, I hope you like that. That was kind of fun to do. I'm kidding. Don't say that's not funny. Baseball caps. I have baseball caps, Loretta. I just haven't got any merchandise in South Africa. It's just too complicated. Someone in here has sent me something, but again, they can produce the merchandise. But I mean, that's all fine and dandy, guys. But that's only if I'm actually in South Africa. Can we'd use that? But I need an all-one solution. I'm not sure that what they sent me is an all-one solution. They sent me a storefront, and the storefront produces goods. So it's not necessarily what I need. Anyway, it may be. I don't know. I have to take a close look. I've just been busy. So people have eggs to lay and chickens to hatch. That's right, Peter O'Connor. Well said. We lost Bruce. Bruce is gone. Shame, shame, shame. Wow. Who tunes into a program at 5:30 in the morning and then leaves a few minutes later? Good Lord. Anyway, that was funny. Oh, Loretta liked that interview. I had a good laugh from it. Okay, cool. Sorry, Anna, I like the two. Yeah. Okay, so Dan, okay, you catching on though? The spill the beans about looking for burmese farm girls. Okay. One of my psycho exes covers this. Oh my goodness, Psycho Billy. Let's not talk about the topic. Okay, so hey, Lorenz Duplessis, welcome to you. All right, so yeah. By the way, so tonight, folks, there's a charity here not too far away, and it's run by a gentleman who is a member of our veterans organization, and a tragic story. I didn't know the story about him early on because people don't run around and tell their stories, but his son died and was hit by a car when he was a young child and passed away. And so to honor their son and remember him, they created a foundation that provides educational scholarship assistance to those who are graduating from a nearby high school who pursue academic, vocational, or technical post-secondary education. The foundation provides annual financial support for the scouting activities in a town called Wellsville, down the road from here. The Kevin Butler Memorial Scholarship Foundation is governed by a board of directors consisting of Kevin's parents and volunteers from the community. 2 standing committees have been formed and utilized from the organization's inception. The Scholarship Selection Committee provides the applications, interviews the candidates, and evaluates each applicant and awards scholarships each spring to graduating seniors. The Solicitation and Fundraising Committee is responsible for generating income for the annual distribution of the scholarships. The goal of the board of directors is to enable students and scouting organizations to benefit from funds collected each year in honor of Kevin's memory. So it's graduating seniors from nearby high school who are planning to continue his or her education at a trade or technical school, college, or university are encouraged to apply. Applications available in January from the guidance counselor's office at the local high school. And funds for scouts. Kevin was a Cub Scout and thoroughly enjoyed scouting. In his memory, money has been set aside to be given to area Boy and Girl Scout troops in the Wellsville area. To be eligible for this money, a Scout representative must present a proposal to the board of directors. Now, if you wish to contribute, it's a 501c public charity organization, and all contributions are 100% tax deductible. KevinButlerMemorial.com is where it's at. So this is the foundation, Kevin Butler Foundation. So they, as of June of 2023, since 1995, the scholarship fund has awarded more than $402,000 in post-secondary scholarships and financial support to Wellsville area scouting organizations. $402,000 they've raised. And the reason I mention this is they do fundraisers, and I went to one this evening. So $402,000 is, how much is that rands? Times 19 rand. That's 7.6 million rand they've generated for those in South Africa. Because Kevin was an organ donor, the foundation is very involved in promoting organ donations. The Kevin Butler Memorial Scholarship Foundation was established on September 18th, 1995 to perpetuate the memory of Kevin Butler. So here's a picture of Kevin. He was struck by a car and passed away. And as the flyer says, Kevin was a scout There's a Cub Scout here. I was also in the Cub Scouts and Weeblos when I was a kid. But their event tonight was a fundraiser. They do a bingo event, and I don't like playing bingo. I don't gamble, but just to show you how things go with when it goes to gambling, I just don't win. But it's not about winning. It was about going and raising money for the foundation so they can offer scholarships in Kevin's memory. So I never knew him. He was a small child when he passed. But I do know his parents, and they're good people. But I have no luck when it comes to gambling. This is why I don't gamble. So this, out of 26 games we played a bingo tonight, this is as close as I got to winning. Right here, number 52. G52, and I would have gotten bingo. It's the closest I got in one game, waiting. And then this other game, the last game I played here, I got within one number, but it was only when they called the last number. So here, I almost made it with the N36 right there. It would have been up and down bingo, but I didn't quite make it. That was on the number they called bingo, so I was actually 2 behind and got on that one. But I just don't win. I don't play lottery. I don't gamble. Life is a big enough gamble, as you can see. So anyway, I thought I'd share those with you tonight and show you that I did a little bit of bingo tonight. And as usual, did not win. I just don't win. Probably would have donated my gift back. But they give away Longaberger baskets with some things in them and scholarships and things like that. But the Kevin Butler Memorial Fund, it's good stuff to help others out. 402,000, 7.6 million rand they've raised for scholarships for kids to go to school, to university and Votech. It's pretty impressive, and what a great honorable thing to do in Kevin's memory. Anyway, that's what healthy societies do. They help each other and things like that. They come together as communities. We don't rely on the state to take care of us. We don't rely on the state to make things happen. This is simply a community coming together and doing something for the betterment of the community, offering scholarships to kids in need, or those who also earn it as well, and also offering money to the scouts so they can do activities. So yeah, there you go. That's what communities do. They help each other. So that's not state, that's not communism, not socialism. That's just community coming together. So it's my second year of participating in it. I was unaware of it prior to that. I don't live in Wellsville. It's a community down the road for me. But I do know the gentleman and his wife. They're good people, salt of the earth. And a tragedy, they lost their son. But they've taken that loss and turned it into something good for so many others. And what are you going to say except bravo? Right. Hey, Renty, what's going on there? Paul Ferreira. Hey, what's going on, Psycho Billy? I don't get idiots attacking us for exposing corruption and wastage. He's saving the taxpayers' hard-earned money. William, you get it when you understand that the whole system is a scam. The last 40 years have been an effort to turn the federal government into a patronage machine for the privileged elites and their friends. And they don't like when people expose their fraud. It's the same thing that's happening in South Africa. This is why people go after organizations to call them racist and white supremacist, even when their organizations don't even have white people in it, because that's their typical lies that they use to go after people. It's all about targeting your enemies when they threaten your livelihood. I was in a video teleconference on Friday with some folks in South Africa talking about civic activities and the things that people do and can do to help others in South Africa. And I caution these folks that it's a good idea, but you have to understand that what you want to do, what you're interested in doing, strikes the very essence of what criminal cartels want to take advantage of. For instance, as I said, in Nelson Mandela Bay, the light poles are cut down by criminal syndicates, not because they want to steal the copper. They let the cable thieves do that. They just want the tender for 18,000 to 22,000 rand per light pole that has to be replaced when the city puts the contract out. This is the sort of thing that happens in corrupt societies when you have patronage instead of providing genuine services. It's not the tragedy of the commons, it's the criminality of the commons. And that's what's happening all over South Africa. And it's also happening places in the States. And Elon Musk is exposing that. I mean, who pays $1 billion for a contract that accomplishes nothing to take a survey? What the hell is that all about? Well, somebody got that money and everyone else looked the other way. That's corruption. When you threaten people cutting off the spigot of their patronage, they get angry. When you threaten people cutting off the spigot of their patronage and with jail time, they get really angry. And then their little minions who are bright as a 2-watt light bulb run around. People, you do realize, folks, I mean, people in this audience probably realize most people who own a Tesla are woke leftists to begin with. I mean, first off, they're rich, they're privileged, which makes them woke and leftist most cases, not entirely. Some conservatives are rich and privileged, but they're rich, they're privileged, and they're mostly leftist. and they're being attacked by other leftists. And the irony of this, they don't see it. Besides, Elon Musk only owns 12% of Tesla. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's the most American of American automobile manufacturers. More components, more percentage of Teslas are manufactured in America than any other car sold in America. So these morons are attacking America. But that's not surprising because they hate America. They have a warped system of the world in which they think that all their crazy-ass worldviews are the way the world is, and it's not that way. Renata's in La Lucia, excuse me, not Saint, La Lucia. Yeah, can't rely on anyone but ourselves in our community. Exactly right. Imagine you could play bingo like procreation, bingo, eat pop. What's this? Huh? Good morning, Xavier. What's going on? All right, so in the morning, I'm going to have a guest on who's going to talk about financial planning. I haven't quite come up with the title. I did come up with the title, but by the time I saw his message, I got it to him rather late, and he was probably off to the sack already. So I have to look and see if he responded, as I haven't posted that yet. So, what? Hang on. Wow, there's some confusion here. Hang on a second here, folks. My guest is... Okay. Wow, okay. Hang on a second. Wow, this is a little crazy here. My guest has got the wrong time. I was good to bring him on here. Okay, hang on a second. You guys might be in for a surprise here. Hang on. I know I'm in for a surprise. Give me a second here. I've got to go off camera here real quick. Or off mic. He's answering now. Wow, this will be one of the oddest ones I've done to date if we're doing this now. I'll record it and then I'll upload it separately, but wait to see what he's saying. He's typing now. Okay, all right, then. Shoot. Hopefully you got that. Hang on, folks. All right, folks, surprise, surprise. We're going to have Ike Kumalo on the program now. We got some confusion here. Busy man he is, as am I. So let me get him on here. We're going to bring Ike Kumalo on here in just a moment. So hang tight. You're going to get, this is real time as these things develop. So, all right. Okay, cool beans. Here you go. All right, so let me turn off the camera and let me get him started here, okay? Hang on, just stay tight. Don't run off. I mean, some people got other things to do, but hang tight. Hang tight. Here we go. I got to turn the camera off. All right, folks, hang on. I'm here. Just got to give me a second here. Okay, and I'll save this.
Recording in progress.
All right, so hopefully, oh, there he goes. He's coming in. Okay. All right, as soon as you come on, okay, I don't have a speaker yet. I can see him on camera. As soon as the speaker comes on, it's on silent. This microphone, there it is. Can you hear me, Ike?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, let me get you on screen. The audience can hear both of us, but they can't see us yet, so give me a moment here. And there we go, folks. Good morning. It's Ike Kumalo. He and I have had some communications challenges back and forth, linking up here. But here we are tonight. It's midnight here on the East Coast. It's 6 a.m. Ike's kind of a busy fellow. So many people ask me to interview Ike Kumalo. I'm like, look, I know a lot of Kumalos, but I don't know Ike. I understand he's an attorney. So Ike, good morning to you. How you doing over there in South Africa?
No, I'm good. I'm not complaining, sir.
All right. Well,
and yourself?
Well, I'm all right. It's other than the fact that it's midnight here and I don't get much sleep these days. Donald Trump's he's keeping me quite busy.
Yeah. I love Trump, man. You know, when Trump left office during his first term, I said that the Americans, they're going to miss him. They're going to miss him because he was trying to save the country, you know, against the international forces, against the globalists. So he's my man. I love him.
Well, I got to tell you, Ike, I to be honest, the first time around, I was a Trump skeptic because I followed Trump his entire life, his, apprentice show, his businessman time. He was like pro-abortion at one stage in his life. But what I didn't understand about Trump is that Trump is a smart guy from a standpoint that when he was in a system, he understands how to work in that system. And he was in New York, which is a Democratic, left-leaning city. And there's certain things he had to go along with. But his true character came out when he became president the first time. I voted for him in 2016, but he wasn't my candidate. I voted for him, not enthusiastically. In 2020, I was all in. I voted for Trump completely because I saw the man did what he said he was going to do. And this time around, no hesitation whatsoever. I'll tell you, there's never been a president who works harder than this guy, takes no salary, and works like he works longer than I do. I work 15, 18 hours a day, and he works that many hours. That's why I got to be up all the time. I got to keep up with the stuff he's doing. He's keeping South Africa hopping, isn't he? People lose their mind over there over Trump.
Yeah, they misunderstand him, man. They misunderstood him earlier on because, we've got the woke community here. So the moment Trump said he's going to close the border, people went mad. But this is what exactly that we are facing here in South Africa because majority of the foreigners who are coming from all African countries and Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they come to South Africa because they say South Africa is the America of Africa, they say we are the USA. So now our people cannot cope because we have to absorb everyone, from Ethiopia, Nigeria, people come here. So that's why maybe my politics and Trump's politics are almost, aligned. And I could not understand, the propaganda that was spilled against him when we were told that Trump is racist. But I said, here's a guy, he was with Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson was accused of horrible crimes, he was with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson says he made a lot of money when he was managed by Trump, as opposed to when he was managed by one of his own, who's this guy with the
Don King? Afro? Don King with the big afro.
Yeah, but he made more money when he was with Donald Trump, as opposed to Don King. So he was always seen, around celebrities, especially black in particular. All of a sudden, when the man becomes president or when he's campaigning, he becomes an enemy. I could not understand that. But I said, especially black people in America, they're going to miss him the most, when he left office. So I'm glad that the man is back.
Well, Ike, when Trump was president that first term, black Americans reached a record level of income, average income, as compared to other Americans, other ethnic groups. They had the highest savings rate in a century for black families. The diamond or the platinum plan he was putting together for investment in inner city communities. He gave more money to historically black colleges and universities than anyone in history, over $500 million. And yet he's portrayed as a racist. His cabinet, this one, not so many black folks in it, but that first cabinet was full of black Americans. And it doesn't matter what Trump does, they're going to lie about him. Like you said, his friends were all these black celebrities, all these poor black folks. He built low-income housing. He also built ritzy golf clubs. He built everything across the board for rich and poor. And Trump was, he's so mischaracterized. It's if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny.
Taking into account that the people who are coming, from Latin American states coming to America, they're competing with blacks for blue-collar jobs, for low-income earning jobs. So they're displacing, black people mainly in particular. And and majority of them, when you open your border, you don't attract the skills that you wanted, primarily you start getting, the undesirables, like here in South Africa, one politician said, when you open your window at night, summertime for a fresh air, not only the fresh air that comes inside your car, but also the mosquito. So, but unfortunately, the people who are coming to America, like, Venezuelan gangs, the Mexican gangs, drug dealers, those are not people that you want to attract. You want to attract scarce skills, and where you don't have scarce skills, you start building with your own people and look outside when you fail to get the scarce skills. So for me, I could not understand the hatred that the man was facing, but, I'm glad that he's back. And the man, there's one thing about the guy, he loves his country, and how many times do you have someone who says, I'm going to do ABC, and he actually does that, even the first term, of which he's putting all the politicians to shame, because most of the time, the politicians, they're telling us about the procedure, parliamentary procedure. This takes time. Yes, Trump becomes, he says, I'm taking Panama.
Or Greenland.
He actually, he makes sense, I don't know what is it that don't make sense, because he said we built a damn thing. We lost 8,000 men, and now they're giving it to China, and they're charging America the highest. So it's unacceptable. So I wish here in South Africa we could, also attach countries like Lesotho, Swaziland, and Zimbabwe, because they are giving us a problem. These countries, they get voted, their leaders, but they send their people to South Africa for social grants. They send their people to South Africa for jobs, for everything. So these countries, they're basically non-existent, So I wish you could do the same, attach them, and annex them all.
Well, the problem with that, of course, Ike, is that the politics in South Africa are batshit crazy, brother. I mean, absolutely crazy. I mean, look, let's get into that. Before we get into that, though, because not everybody in my audience knows who Ike Kumalo is. I just briefly introduced you as an African attorney, but I have an audience from around the world, although lately, because of the refugee program, my audience has become much more South African. So it used to be about 50% South Africans, about 80% at the moment. But we still have a lot of people from the UK, from US, from Canada, from New Zealand, Australia, Japan, China, around the world who watch the program. So can you just briefly tell us a little bit about who Ike Kumalo is? Other than the fact that you're wearing that Jack Sparrow style hat. What's up with that?
No, usually by 2 a.m. I'm up. So today, I don't know, for whatever reasons, I just woke up and I checked the clock and I'm looking at the time. It says 5:30. Then I says I'm late. I normally sleep 4 hours. But today, I don't know. I woke up and I said quickly, I don't like wearing the cap, but I've got an afro. So I've got to prepare it in time, and wash it quickly. So usually when I left my room, I take a shower quickly. Today, I made an exception.
So Ike, what you're saying, Ike, is you're having a bad hair day this early in the morning.
Yeah, I'm image conscious, so I feel a bit ashamed because I usually prepare myself. I just, take a clean shave.
Listen, brother, listen. When you're devastating and handsome like the two of us are, we don't have to worry about it, man. It just comes natural. You're okay. Don't sweat it.
I had a beard like yours. I shaved it.
The ladies are watching. It's good to go, brother. You're all right.
Yeah. But every South African who grew up in the late 70s, 80s, I grew up as that kid, was always politically aware, political conscious. I joined like all kids, when Oliver Tambo said, make the country ungovernable, I joined the youth of the ANC, the causes of the day. And, thinking that these political parties, the PAC actually, and the ANC, I joined them both, thinking that these are liberation movements, but later you found out that these are lootists, these are elitist people who wanted to eat. There's a lady who said, "We are not black conscious, or you are not woke. You are just hungry." Some people they're just hungry. They are not woke. They just want a door. They want to come in. So that is that. So, but later on, as I grew up, I realized that, no, these parties, they don't mean well for the majority of the people, especially when Mandela came out of jail, and we started seeing all these policies being implemented, be it BEE. At first, the politics, the preamble, when they lay out these policies, they I don't know, they parade them, using good intentions, but you can see behind that they don't mean that. They just want to empower their few elites. So that's when I started to question a lot of things, and they're not quite happy that I question, but at least here in South Africa, we can still have, a limited freedom of speech, but I can see that, there is greater intolerance growing. But I'm that, South African who's always been active on the issue of immigration. We formed NGOs, and sometimes they get infiltrated because people love money. Yeah, but I'm still that guy, wherever I am, I ask, what are the problems? I try to come in, But I don't believe that, South African politics and politicians, they are in good faith. They just want to eat.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because you're probably familiar with this book written by Kenya and Michaela Wrong. It's Our Turn to Eat, talking about the pervasive corruption that occurred in Kenya with patronage. And that's really how things have been unfolding in South Africa. I mean, we could run through Oilgate, Armsgate, the arms deal, Nkandla, the PPE scandals, the Vreda dairy farm, Zandile Gumeda's 178 criminal charges in eThekwini. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And so many cases people don't even know about. The asbestos tender with Ace Magashule there in the Free State. I mean, the corruption is just epic. And it never ends. And these people are stealing from South Africans. They're stealing from South Africans. They're impoverishing. Like, if we look at the figures, the number of black South Africans who live in abject poverty today is 3 times as many numerically as under the National Party. I'm not making excuse for the National Party. That was a terrible system. It was morally wrong. But 3 times as many people, they didn't get this right. They've made it worse. Look at the education standards. It's crazy.
Look, I can tell you, without fear of being contradicted, blacks who lived under apartheid, they actually did better than now. Okay, the politics of apartheid, maybe it was questionable, maybe wrong, but I can tell you, people, they had jobs, and they were spoiled for choice. Maybe the jobs were not that paying. Back then, things were not so expensive, you could afford, People were working, there was a train system that was functional, and people were trained, they had skills. They could go to, what do you call them, ambar schools, where they can learn, artisan work, for free of charge. In some places, getting paid. There was no shortage of doctors, there was no shortage of teachers. Hospitals were fully functional, in black townships, the sporting facilities, when it comes to recreation, we could produce boxers, produce, people, athletes, karatekas, musicians, all those things, we had them in abundance, and we were the number 1 in Africa at that time, including the former homelands, which were under black administration. They also did better, in that system. When we came into the ANC democracy, it was something else, everything was destroyed. I mean, you look at SANDF, it was SADF then. It was number 5, top 5 strongest armies in the world. We used to pride ourselves that, we had clean cities like Johannesburg, all the cities. Today, you go there, in every city, with no exceptions, there's rats, there's filth, there are no-go areas. South Africans don't go, in CBDs, because there's crime. You could never imagine in South Africa back then, a sound of a gun. The only person who could shoot a gun was police. Now you could hear a sound of a gun, criminals, people being raped in dilapidated buildings in Johannesburg, I grew up in Johannesburg. You used to take a bath when you go to Johannesburg. You used to pride yourself. It was the cleanest. A chicken would fall flat on the pavement. You would pick it up and still eat it. In Hillbrow, Yeovil, I don't know with Cape Town. Cape Town, I think it's still a bit, better, but I think it's also, gonna collapse in future due to the immigration crisis. because the people who are coming, from the northern borders, they also go to Cape Town. Buildings are being hijacked. There are crimes that we never thought that would happen. Human trafficking is quite new. Building hijacking is quite new, and crimes are happening in, crazy, man.
Oh, it's heartbreaking, Ike. Let me just come back to that, but I'm going to ask you a personal question. Kumalo, you're from that area. Is that a what's your heritage? Is it Tswana? Is it Sutu? What that name sounds familiar?
It's Zulu.
It's Zulu.
It's called
Kumalo? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Where are you folks from originally?
No, my father's from in KZN. There's a place in KZN called Dundee. They were the first when they were.
I know Dundee.
And then they moved to Newcastle because our family was one of the first when East Coast discovered coal mines. So they moved my great-grandfather's farm. So they took it, and then we relocated to Newcastle. But later on, my parents moved to Joburg, because that Joburg was the birthplace. So everybody went to Joburg to work. So, but I was born in Soweto.
Do you ever get down to Dundee? I remember the first time I went there, like 25 years ago. There was a thing called the Royal Hotel. I stayed there. It was run by an ethnic German who grew up in Angola because her great grandparents had moved there as colonists back when they were in German Southwest Africa. But she was running it. The hotel was closed last time I was there. Dundee is not quite the town it used to be. It's kind of sad looking. I don't know if you've been back here and checked it out.
No, I went in there once, twice. There is nothing there for us except that the coal mines that were there. I was just trying to trace my family's farm where it was, exactly, because we never really got compensation for that. But there were problems with title deeds, trusts, so things that they're still ongoing. Yeah, but there is nothing much for us there because my father's family or side of his family is not quite big. It's quite small, unlike my mother's side. My mother's side, they're more from Mpumalanga and, they moved to the northwest. So,
gotcha.
But for my father's side, there's quite few people. So I don't quite go there,
All right. So it's where your family's from, but it's not really home anymore. Gauteng sounds like that's kind of home for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's someone in the chat you may know, Angelo Agrizi. He sends you his best wishes. He wanted to send his wishes to you. Just want to make sure I got that across to you. So,
Angelo, but I must say something about Angelo because I find it quite sad that he's being persecuted, after the revelations, in the state capture. I mean, you would think that the main culprits would be arrested. But, this is South Africa. We're becoming a banana republic. Actually, he should be, celebrated for coming out and, letting us know what transpired. And the main culprits in the ANC should be arrested, but they are not. It is him, who's facing the tyranny of this guy. So I find it sad and disgusting, if I were to use the words.
The thing is really sad about South Africa. If you do what's right, moral. See, like when I came back to South Africa after the COVID scam was eased and I could travel again in August of 2022, I spoke at the Reformation Society in Rondebosch, and they asked me what topic, and I said I'd like to speak on the topic of doing what's right, moral, and just in the face of injustice, because we had just gone through this COVID nonsense where people were lied to. And so I gave this speech. And what's heartbreaking for me is if people do what's right, moral, and just in South Africa, they aren't hailed as heroes. They're hunted down. Look at the assassination of Babito Deokaran, slaughtered simply because she discovered an accounting error and simply did her job and reported it. And they couldn't dare let her testify and expose all the fraud and the people involved in it. So they murdered her. The only saving grace for that is she had dropped her daughter off at school before they assassinated her when she came home. I mean, it's and she's not the only one. Lots of other people have been whistleblowers, have been targeted. There's virtually no protection for whistleblowers in South Africa. It's a really sad state of affairs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite sad. You're becoming both Mexico and Colombia. South Africa is becoming a mafia state, and it's something quite far from the dream that we had 1990. When Mandela was released, we all had hopes. When they said we're a rainbow nation. And look, the inequalities of the past, I understand, and I feel that the government of the day could have built, more industries instead of indulging in, in catastrophic policies and things that are not taking us far. We could have built, we don't have a car, South African car. Most of our industries, were destroyed, over, a piece of paper and a pen. When they signed our economy to China, we outsourced everything to China instead of building those industries that we had or sustaining them, the textile industries, and I say the money that is stolen in this country was enough to change Black lives. There are countries that are small, your Finland and, countries where people don't have, majority of the resources that we have. They don't have massive farms, but people, they live, better lives than us here. So I'm disappointed in what has transpired, taking into account that South Africa should be leading, but we are going back and backward.
Well, in fact, South Africa is reverting to the medieval age. That's what's happening in South Africa. Everything's falling apart. The neglect, the theft, it's shocking. If you go back to the end of the colonial era and you look at the Asian states that were colonies as well, they've had a completely different experience. Some of them took a while to get there. South Korea had protected industries under the chaebol for a long. They had an odd model, but eventually it worked. And eventually full democracy came to South Korea. And now it's a global powerhouse. It's one of the largest economies in the world. And it's a smaller country population-wise than South Africa. And it was completely devastated by a civil war. A war when North Korea invaded 1950. It took them until the 80s before they even caught up to North Korea in their development. And it's not just that. You look at Singapore, you look at Malaysia, Indonesia surging ahead. It's amazing. But you look at Africa, only a few examples of places that have done well for different reasons. Rwanda, Mauritius, Cape Verde, Tunisia did very well for a long time. And that's a country, Tunisia doesn't have much in the way of resources. They don't have oil, they don't have diamonds, they don't have gold, but they have human capital and they invested in education. Whereas South Africa's education has gone the opposite direction. Under apartheid, Dr. Zweli Mkhize went to primary school, he went to secondary school, he went to university, he went to medical school, he took his internship and became a practicing medical doctor under apartheid. But not by going to England or going to Canada. He did it in South Africa. I'm not saying that most black folks had a fair shot, but I'm saying he did that. Today, who's going to become a doctor in South Africa? The graduate who got 30, and 40% in their first language and passed the matric? It's pretty scary what they've done with education. And I think it shows in the level of discourse, and I see it from the trolls who attack my channel. Today, I had a troll come on my channel earlier when I was live and said something strange about capitalism. I said, well, define capitalism for me. And he couldn't define it. And I said, let me give you a simple answer. At the most basic level, capitalism from David Ricardo and Adam Smith, the philosophy is supply and demand. You supply, demand. And that's what it comes down to. All this other stuff, America doesn't have a true capitalist society. South Africa sure doesn't. China doesn't. These are elements of capitalism, but capitalism is not evil. Elements of capitalism are responsible for lifting 600 million Chinese out of abject poverty. It's when it's used and the principles used, it works very well. But my point with all that, Ike, is not to go on about capitalism, but to show you or to make the point just how devastating low educational standards have made South African society. We now have 3 generations of South Africans have been subjected to ANC Bantu education, is what I call it. Cyril Ramaphosa is always fond of saying, Bantu education is worse than no education at all. And I agree. ANC Bantu education in the 21st century is worse than no education at all. That's shocking.
You mentioned doctors. You should go see Medunsa. We used to pride ourselves that there is an institution like Medunsa producing top-notch doctors. People used to come to South Africa from UK to train in Baragwanath. Today you see Baragwanath. It's like a war zone. It smells. The smell there. It's unbearable. General. So, look, for me, I don't eat policies, philosophies, dogma. When my child is hungry, he says, Daddy, I'm hungry. I need to pay school fees. He comes to me. I'm not going to start defining capitalism, socialism, Karl Marx, Communist Manifesto. And isn't it funny that all those communists like your Karl Marx, your Trotsky, they all got funding from the Western countries. I find it quite funny. And I would not want to live in Soviet. You check all these people who are claiming to be socialists, Marxists and all that. They all want to go to the West. They would not want to live in Cuba. They will not want to live in North Korea. And they'll go to UK, US, check where their money is at, where they're investing, they're enjoying the best, the Western life. Even these ones who are calling themselves economic freedom fighters, you look at their lifestyles, they're not living like Che Guevara's or modern day Fidel Castro. They're always in bars, taverns, drinking, driving expensive cars, properties of the worst, and it quite amazes me. They speak left and walk right. So which is quite, sad, because for them, it means that they must take from the few. Look, for me, I still emphasize that, we can build more industries, rather than trying, to use this language of them and us and them, and I believe that, it's outdated by now. We should be building more industries. The monies that were stolen, I mean, look, during COVID, the Afrikaners, they built a university, equivalent, I think it was 400 million, something like that, the figure. And you check what the Premier of Gauteng did, equal budget. He spent that money wastefully so, sanitizing schools, people looting the monies, nothing productive, we're still using the apartheid infrastructures, the bridges, and now they're flooding because the drainage system is not serviced. Everything that we use was built under apartheid, including where the ANC headquarters is at, the suburbs that we live in, the private schools that we live in, they're all coming from the apartheid era, the private sector. You check the public, what they're doing, they're over-bloated, ministers driving blue lights, unnecessarily so. Why would you need, about 10 cars and bodyguards if you're a minister of sports? Who's chasing you? Why are you afraid of the people that vote in you? Who will want to kill the minister of sports? For what? Unless you are corrupt, unless you're pushing corruption there. So these guys, they've become the new bullies, So, check within the apartheid structures, back in the days, you would not even know who's a minister of certain portfolios. You'd not even bump into them in stadiums, in soccer games, rugby games, or shebeens. But these ones, they are, I don't know, they are fame crazy. They want to be celebrities. They don't understand that, they are civil servants. And you check with, during COVID, the amount of monies that they have looted, and they came and say, we've got a crisis, but they still looted that money that's supposed to solve that crisis.
Yeah, exactly. I said several years ago, I said the sad part about ANC rule, particularly from the middle or the end of Thabo Mbeki's era and going forward through Zuma. But the sad thing about the ANC's rule is that they have become just like most liberation movements in Africa, which become comfortable with the trappings of power and the privilege that they achieve and get through that. And what happens is that the wrong values are inculcated in youth. So instead of growing up to want to be a doctor or a policeman or a farmer or a baker or a teacher and contribute to society, generations of youth grow up going, I want to be a counselor. That way I can get my hands on the tenders and that way I can be rich and powerful. And we see this play out in KZN where over 100 ANC counselors were assassinated over about a decade period by people who wanted to become the counselor. And how did they become the counselor? By eliminating their opponent. And it's truly horrific and sad because those people were innocent and killed and in most cases. And then also they do drive-bys and they kill other innocent people at school board meetings trying to kill the counselor. It's really, really a sad situation. And that's a sign of a very unhealthy society when people don't aspire to become astronauts and doctors and well, God forbid, lawyers. Sorry, Ike, but aspire to become lawyers as well. But I mean, it's really a sad situation, and it's one that a lot of people glom onto politics, particularly in South Africa, because they see it as a path to wealth and fame, not contributing to society in a different fashion. The people forget that politicians are supposed to serve the people. They're there to meet your needs because you've chosen them to represent you collectively. But in South Africa, it's the other way around. That's like when the ANC deploys its cadres, it's all about Latuli House. It's not about the people that are being served.
Yeah, it started with politicians, and also there's also again this global trend, of celebrity culture. And in my world, a school teacher and a medical doctor will be paid, higher than a TV presenter, will be paid higher than a soccer star. Because look, if a soccer player dies, we don't suffer as much as we suffer when a medical doctor dies. And 2 days ago, I went to a memorial service of a medical doctor was killed, a black medical doctor killed in his own house in Garankuwa. This is a man who was an activist. This is a man who had a surgery, allowing people to come into his surgery, servicing them for free of charge. Not one person, not two, but allowing people who don't have money to be serviced. But he was killed just like that. And like any other doctor, it doesn't make news. And this is not your normal thing. This is a high-profile guy who was a politician in the 80s and 90s. He's a writer, but it's business as usual. So it is unfortunate that education is not celebrated like when I was young. When I was young, doctors were celebrated, engineers, people who built, stuff. But I blame Thabo Mbeki the most, because it is Thabo Mbeki who started to destroy these institutions. Thabo Mbeki, when he came in, he wanted to privatize everything into their hands. That's why he crafted policies like BEE. I'm a huge critic of BEE because I understood why it existed. It existed to allow a few elites, ANC politicians, to force their way into white companies, to be plugged in there. Your Tokyo Sokwane, Cyril Ramaphosa himself, he's never built anything. The people like Petrus Motsepe, they got into these companies, the stake was opened up. Even the economic freedom fighters, people like Julius Malema, when they say we must nationalize these banks and this, they just want to come in, because at the end of that, they say, but when we nationalize the land, the banks, but 30% must be open up to BEE. And then that's where they come in. They just want to loot. And for me, I say there's much land in the hands of government, and they can do something about that. Show us, in the farms that they've poorly managed them. You mentioned the dairy farms. You mentioned Tandumudi's pigs farm. I mean, who could really fail to have a pigs farm, to manage pigs? Pigs, they eat almost anything and everything. But for you to kill the pigs, you must have been a bad person. You must be a bad person to allow so many pigs to die in your farm, to go hungry. So these guys, when they crafted these laws, they go and rally black people, the masses, and they use black anger and black poverty so that they can force themselves into these white companies, or formerly your mainstream companies, and get a share there. Like for an example, when you gonna come on and say kill the farmer, kill the poor, they don't even actually mean that, but they just want to to scare the capitalists, so that they can say, what is it that they want now? Come in. They're just doing that. They use black poverty, to open doors for themselves. So that's what they actually do.
But the thing is, they actually, I was in Riedflay, which is south of Zeerust, a couple of years ago. There's a small party up there in Zeerust, which was cheated out of a seat by the IEC in the 2021 municipal elections. And I covered that party, the Forum for Democrats. It's a Tswana-based party. And I helped get them lawyers and NGO, and got the IEC to change their stance and get their seat and remove the EFF, who was erroneously awarded the seat under proportional representation. So I have a close relationship with that party, which is all black, by the way. They're all Tswana speakers. And they invited me to go up and see how desperate parts of the community are. And Riedflay is about 30 kilometers south, but it's still part of the municipality. It is located at a disused slate mine. There's no electricity out there. There's ablution units. They've got pit latrines. They used to have a roving medical van that would come out once a week, but even that doesn't come anymore. The land is owned by a white South African offered to sell it to the municipality at basically at its value, nothing, what it's evaluated at, nothing more. And they refused to buy it for year after year after year. But these people are just kind of left out there destitute. Now, they got to take some responsibility for themselves. But my point is that they live in abject poverty and nothing's been done. They create the situation, the ruling party that's been in power for 31 years, and then they try to exploit it, the very situation they've created. I mean, there's no reason for these people to be living like this 31 years after the end of apartheid. There's been plenty of money if it just wasn't pilfered and wasted. Yeah,
there is so much wastage. They do. I do agree with you that a majority of our problems are self-inflicted. We could solve them if we had the will. That's why I'm not a fan of saying they out there. If you check all African leaders, they're always blaming the West, including Ghana that was liberated, I think, 1957. And we fell in that trap. We're always saying they out there, white people in America. I mean, we could do some things for ourselves here. I mean, under apartheid, we managed. Our institutions, we ran parallel institutions, including, beauty contests. They might not have been as top-notch, but they were there. They existed for everything that white people had during apartheid. We also had that, and in abundance. So I believe that, these guys could have built more other than wanting to take from Peter, give it to John. And I mean, as a government, they waste trillions and trillions. There's monies that, goes back to treasury to be looted and, misspent. So, yeah, for me, you look at the crime rate, them doing away with borders. South Africa basically doesn't have borders. Anyone can come here. War criminals, they can come here. I mean, you check people coming from the Lesotho direction, Mozambique, stealing cars, and the murder rate gone up, including farm killings. Majority of these cases, you find that, you have the illegal immigrants coming in and, committing all these sorts of crimes, of which the government should do more. I mean, our army should be protecting our borders, building walls, but they're not, and they've cut the budget, for the armies. And you check our army, they've become a joke. You check them big bellies, yeah, overweight.
Yeah, you have to have a 400 centimeter waist to be a flag officer in the South African National Defense Force. It's really sad. I mean, they really have health issues there.
It's all about looting. I mean, back in the days, there were standards. You couldn't be just a police officer. You had to weigh a certain weight. I mean, not everyone can be a Navy. I just can't be a Navy. I'm overweight to be a Navy. You've got to be fit. But now, if you start lowering the standards and you say, you know what, let us lower the standards so that we can come in. That's what has happened, post-democracy, to lower the pass mark, to lower the standard. I mean, you look at institutions like UNISA, when it was managed by Vegex was a Prudent Bond member. But when we came out of UNISA, your qualifications was, the best in the world.
Yeah, they were world class standards, and they're not there now.
Yeah, they're not there now. Now you've got rumors, you hear that they're ghostwriters. Some of the politicians, the most of dunderheads, the most of dumbest criminals in politicians, you just hear tomorrow the guy's got a PhD. And we are told that they're ghostwriters, people who are writing assignments for them, writing research for them. And then that lowers the standards because guys, they just want to come in. Under Thabo Mbeki, I mean, we produce Sam Shilowa was the premier of the #1 province, in Africa. The guy had no formal education. Jacob Zuma himself, I'm not saying that, for everything else you need education, but there must be a yardstick, there must be a standard. You can't just come in there, and you have no clue of what is going on. At least have some, let's have some benchmark and say from here,
Well, absolutely. I mean, like you can't just allow people to be electricians if they don't know what they're doing. They'll wire a house incorrectly to burn down. You can't be a mason and build a house if you don't know the standards for structure, because that's a problem. So you have to have standards. And in the military, I spent 36 and a half years in the Army. You have to be fit. You can't be obese. I mean, you got to be able to pick up and go. And like you and I work ridiculously long hours and still be able to function. You can't do that if you've got type 2 diabetes and hypertension and issues that are related. you can't do that in an operational environment with the military. There's a comment from one of my viewers, Jan Fundriel, says that he worked for the late Dr. Richard Maponya, and he said that that Ntate Richard, that he was one of the good guys.
Yeah, Richard Maponya actually built his mall not far from my mother's house. One of those guys, the pioneers. Him and the likes of Shabalala. So he is a hard worker, or he was a hard worker, and should emulate people like that. At the heart of apartheid, here's Richard Maponya. He even assisted some of these ANC guys when they came out of jails, came out of exile, to resettle them. He sponsored them. So Richard Maponya was an honorable man. You've never heard anything negative about Richard Maponya. He was the top of the, cream at that time. But going back to Mbeki, I think with these policies of GIA, it destroyed this country, because it destroys those institutions that produce people like, Ntate Richard Maponya, institutions that were meant to, build skills. Unfortunately, they were cutting budgets and cutting stuff, and eventually it showed up. And we are now into, it's like post-colonial, just post-colonial era, where the politics, they're becoming black and white. For me, I think that we should move away from the race politics. For me, it doesn't matter the color of the skin of the president or a leader. As long as you can do what I want, I'm okay with that. If I put you there in office, you do exactly what I want, I'm okay with that. And I'm fed, I go to school, my kids go to school. So what more do I want? But unfortunately, the politicians, they are dividing us, using race, using gender, using all those things. But at the crux of it, you find that we want the same things, a person has got 4 manifold needs. You just want clothing. You just want, to be housed. You want to, recreation. You want to be fed. And then also the fifth one, the cultural needs, So you want all those things. So for you to be stuck in, a post-Soviet politics, for me, it's unfortunate. And you check here, it cannot be that, I don't know how many, 40 or almost 40 million people depending on 7 million. That's not sustainable. You need to build more, entrepreneurs, build more capacity, build more skills. You cannot be, outdone, by countries like China. In the 60s and earlier, we're, far ahead of China. In the 80s, we're at par with Australia, today, it is laughable when you look at South Africa. We are so behind. We're even behind countries like Rwanda. They're now starting to undermine us. And they would not do that, in the past.
Well, in fact, Rwanda, in many respects, from a business standpoint, is going well past South Africa. It's tiny compared to South Africa, but its rate of growth, its ease of doing business. Now, it's run by an autocrat. It's, to be honest, that's one reason why they're able to do it, and that can't sustain forever. They have to eventually have freedom. Otherwise, you can't inspire entrepreneurialism and things like that. That's why you need liberties. That's one of the secret recipes for America, is that we had freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and people had the chance to fail. You have to give people that chance to succeed or fail on their own. But Rwanda is definitely doing quite well from a business standpoint. But what's really sad for me, Ike, about South Africa is which you've touched on here, is how everything gets turned into race. Everything gets turned into race. Most South Africans I know, and I've been virtually everywhere in South Africa, except for like Kruger, I've never been there. but I've been all over South Africa, all the provinces, hundreds of times in my visits there when I lived in Africa and going there on business and such. Most South Africans I meet, whether they're black or they're white or they're brown, and they just want those Maslow's hierarchy of needs you're talking about, those basic needs. And, if you get to self-actualization, that's nice. But most people just want to meet their basic needs. They get along with their neighbors. They want to get along with their neighbors. They want to feed their kids. They want their kids to succeed, do better than they want to be able to worship the way they like to worship. And that's what it's all about. They're not running around going, get whitey, get blackie, get brownie. That's social media. That's the media. And that's politicians. There are exceptions, Ike. There are racists of all stripes and all colors. But the good news is that's such a small portion of the actual population. Most people are just decent. That's been my experience. Do you think my experience is out of the norm? Am I kidding myself?
No, on a day-to-day, people get along. They just want to live and survive and, feed their families. It is politicians who are using all these terms and, dogmas and black and white. But at the bottom of it, people just want to, get along and exist and feed their families and work. So that's what they want. It is unfortunate that the politicians, instead of building more capacity, creating new industries, they've, gone that direction because it makes them relevant. For some people, they need to create a problem so that they can stay relevant. So for me, yeah, it's neither here nor there. The issue, look at, for an example, the issue of this issue which is in the news, kill the boer, kill the farmer slogan. If I sing the song, what changes in my life? If I'm fighting so hard, some of these politicians, they fight for things that even if you win them, nothing changes, in people's lives. Maybe if their song, would produce more black institutions which are lacking today, jobs, and businesses, maybe I would sing it from the rooftop. But there are certain things that, we should move away from. White people, when they came here, most of them, they came, under forced labor. You know that during the Voyager years, the Dutch East Indies, they brought in here by companies, coming here. A majority of white people, they're workers, I get affected by the same. When I go to the shop, I buy the bread at the same price. The fuel prices, the tax is affecting me. I understand, where we come from, our past. But it's just a few elites, like now, a few billionaire elites, at the top. But majority of us, we are all in the same boat. Majority of black and whites, there are people who are just working. But there's few politicians and a few billionaires who are running this country. So, and they're making us fight at the bottom. So for me, I'll tell you this. If I'm in a sinking Titanic and a guy comes, it's a Hitler or a Nazi, will it matter if he says, Ike, here's a boat, let's jump in, help me, to sail into safety? It would not matter. If the guy is terre blanche, I'll shake his hand and say, we've got a common purpose. We, off to dry land, and then we shake and we say, next time, buddy, if you need me, call me. I've been helped by people of different races, in my life. Even during my time in the entertainment, I was once a model. I was once handsome. Now I'm old and ugly.
Now you're old and doughy, right? Is that what it is? You're old and doughy. So listen, Ike, now you're still sexy, brother.
People who helped me the most, people who came from, British, families, people from Germany, and it's quite sad. Like now, if I were to, drive out in the middle of the night, I'm more worried to be vandalized, to be, attacked by my own, and most of these politicians who are telling people that, hey, white people, they live in white neighborhoods, they live in Stain City, and they run away from their own people. You go to the township now, instead of solving the problem, we don't want crime, let us get people involved. They run away. I'm more likely, I've been vandalized more, by my own people, the people that I've serviced, and then, yeah, it's a sad story.
So, look, I have a confession for you. I have to admit this on air. So a lot of my viewers have been asking me to get you on for a few weeks, and I said, I'll try, and you and I have been working on it. But I have to admit that I was a little nervous because despite the fact that I have multiple postgraduate degrees and I'm a published author and a university lecturer and a radio personality and a counterintelligence officer and a combat veteran and have written for the President of the United States of America, I was really intimidated because I've heard it from no higher authority than a gentleman who told me that white women are genetically inferior and that whites are like dogs and need to be chained and that we're descended from Neanderthals. And of course, now he says we must be slaughtered and driven into the sea. And so, I understand that a couple weeks ago you appeared on the Hustler's Corner with this esteemed academic Nota Boloye. I think he also does music industry, but apparently he knows all about white folks. So I'm very intimidated to actually talk to you. What with being descended from Neanderthals, I'm not sure. I understand that despite the fact that English is not his first language, he's much more articulate in my first language than I am. So I was very intimidated to come on, Ike. I just want to let you know that, okay?
Yeah, no, for me, he's a good friend. I know him, and we differ quite well. I was meeting him for the first time, but I've known of him, and also have his contact. I know I was meeting for the second time on that show. I differ with him because majority of the people, they want me to get to the platform and say white people this. I mean, if you're gonna say people are inferior, but you cannot exist without them, I can tell you for a fact, if white people left South Africa, like Donald Trump said, South Africa will be a shithole. South Africa is doomed. Everywhere else where white people have left, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, in Maputo, in Mozambique, the place deteriorates. I mean, those are statistics you can see in Nigeria, everywhere where white people left. I mean, unfortunate, but it is a fact. I cannot dispute facts. I'm not entitled to my own facts, and this is not an opinion. Even here in South Africa, the number is dwindling, and that scares me, because I know that these guys, it's even worse with us. They don't even respect us. At least, white people, when they are builders, I mean, you check the institutions that are there, I mean, let's go back, and most people, when they talk about that superiority and all that, okay, let's go back to Ethiopia, let's go back to Egypt, and you tell me if, let's say, all the civilization that was built in those countries, why is it that could not be repeated here in the 1800s? I mean, if the Egyptians, they built pyramids, they built civilization that was top-notch at that time, the Ethiopians in Sudan, why is it that a great king like Shaka Zulu or Shaka Senzaka Kona was still wearing animal skin, living in glass huts? I mean, at that time, he should be rolling in a steam train. I mean, you look at 1820. By 1820, and you look at Britain at that time, or England, I mean, completely different atmosphere. You look at China at that time. So for me, it doesn't help if I'm wearing a Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and then I'm going to identify people who are inferior, but I cannot survive without them. I'm using their platform. I'm using Zoom. I'm using all, the networks. I'm using a cell phone, which is, not African. So you shouldn't even be, indulging in that language. You should be concentrating on building. I mean, you look at China, I mean, they lost 50 million people, and they came, they built, and they copied the West. Mao Zedong sent students to come. After his death, they moved, on. You look at Japan. Japan was hit, 2 cities destroyed, but they never cried, they never marched, they never toy, they never sang, they never, pulled up placards. They built. Germany was destroyed almost, to zero. They never cried, they never said much. They built their country, same as England. Everyone else, and anybody has been colonized before. I mean, we know the history of the Germanic tribes, the Byzantine Empire, we know the Mongolians, we know the history of the Islamic Empire coming to you. Everybody else in the world has been colonized, has been, forced into labor, but people, they dusted themselves off and they moved on. I mean, in bigger numbers, people have lost millions. Even in Russia, under Stalin, almost 50 million people died, but look at them now. But you cannot be crying forever, be a victim. I mean, I was once like that when I was still young, and saying, hey, what? Because I was still young under apartheid, But, as you grow older, you realize that you don't have all the time in the world, You cannot be a victim forever. Like I said, when my children are hungry, they don't want to know what is AfriForum doing. They don't want to know what is Solidarity doing. They don't want to, they just want me to make a plan. And majority of the guys, normally when I say at ground level, people are working, are getting along, they are plumbers, technicians, it doesn't matter what your skin color, it doesn't matter what is your philosophy.
Well, Ike,
if I need help from you,
I've found myself needing to reconsider my entire worldview after listening to this team academic Nota Boloy. I mean, you know, I have 16 wives in 13 African countries. I've been busy browning Africa, and my poor children are now mixed race. I mean, are they part Neanderthal? I'm very confused. I need advice from Nota. Can you hook me up with? Can you get me in touch with this guy? We're very confused.
I will send you his numbers. Yeah, but for me, those debates, they actually, you know, taking me nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that also started with, I normally say the ANC during the negotiations. You know, even when they were bargaining, they were fighting for things that even if you had them, nothing changes. So with us, we fight for things that even if we win them, nothing changes, you know, in our lives. So for me, who's superior than, I mean, if you want to see, I mean, you look, you know, in the last 700 years, I mean, my race has suffered the most. And I'm not saying that to please you, that has suffered the most in terms of, like, you know, development. You check, I mentioned the 1800s. If we had an institutional memory, I mean, taking from the Middle East, coming from Egypt, we should have built, aeroplanes by that time. If we were the people who built the pyramids, if we were the people who discovered mathematics. So for me, the debate whether it's who's superior to who, you look at today, you know, I don't want to get into that because it will put me to shame, because you're going to ask me a question, you know, if we were to go that direction.
I'm not going to ask you that question because I don't care about that crap. I'm just making a point about what Nota said.
You cannot be superior if you live in a shack. You cannot be superior if your mental rate is high. You cannot be superior if your HIV rate is high. You cannot be superior if you're relying on Donald Trump to supply you with medical aid, and when he cutting budget and your people are starting to die of HIV, how is that superior? You cannot be superior if all, you know, your people are relying on jobs that were created, you know, under apartheid 30 years later. You cannot be superior when everything else that you are using comes from Western countries. You know, you're looking somewhere to China, East, you know, there's nothing that you're producing. What is so superior about that? What is so superior, about this government that is stealing from its own people? You look at other countries like Scandinavian, you know, people, you know, they're quite satisfied with their government. There's nothing superior about that. The South African government, I always said that they should have reached a person like Elon Musk. I mean, South Africa should be driving Tesla as an official car. You know, all ministers should be driving Tesla. They should have spoke to Elon Musk and say, Elon, can you assist us to, you know, come up with electric vehicle here, have a plant somewhere in Kimberley, and also with other projects. But unfortunately, when it comes to telecommunications, you find these ANC politicians, they want to compete with him because they're also invested in your other networks. So, which is unfortunate. They don't think people first. You know, they think themselves first. And what's so superior about that? I mean, you look at parties like MK, you know, what is so superior about building, actually not even building, renovating a house for 250 million next to the poorest of people? I don't see Che Guevara doing that. He was a medical doctor. What is so superior about that? You know, and then they're going to come and use concepts like, you know, RET, you know, and you look at these guys, they're buying Porsches. Our money is stolen, our tax money is stolen and spent in ship beans. They've created the slave queen culture, you know, where they entice young girls, you know, with money. What is so superior about black politicians driving their massive Lamborghinis and limousines parked outside tertiary institutions, you know, to corrupt young kids who don't have money? What is so superior about that? So at some point, there are certain things that you should overlook. It doesn't help me, you know, to debate, you know, and have, normally people say it's a intellectual masturbation and say, I want to prove a point, I want to win an argument. For me, it doesn't help me. You got to look at your basic needs. What is it that you need? You know, you need to survive now. So this debate of who's superior, but if I'm in a corner I cannot claim superiority. I mean, when was the last time South Africa had a car? It was during apartheid. I think there was a car called Ranger. You know, when was the last time we produced things that you could sell? I mean, we messed up everything that we're supposed to inherit. South African Bureau of Standards, everything that we're supposed, to take forward. What is so superior about that? From Cape to Cairo, you know, all the countries that attained liberation in Burundi, in Rwanda, in DRC Congo, people are still fighting. They're blaming the West. What is so superior about that? Show me the superiority. So these debates, they don't take us forward. We should concentrate on what is it that you can do and copy what is happening, you know, elsewhere, which is good, and implement it here.
But let's talk, Ike, now about what's going on. It's not making it better. It's actually making it worse. We've seen a number of things that have occurred recently. These bills that were passed in the previous parliament, but then signed into law by Cyril Ramaphosa under the Government of National Unity. For instance, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, which takes away a lot of the responsibility for education from the local level and it gives it up higher to people like, you know, provincial level, Panyazi Lusufi. I mean, that's not a guy I want in charge of education, trust me. And then also it criminalizes parents whose children are truant. They can lock you up if your kids aren't in school. I mean, that's going to hit the poor or the worst who can't always afford to get their kids to school. And then on top of that, they're forcing English, a language only spoken by 6% of South Africans as a first language, my mother tongue, but it's a colonial language to most South Africans, and they're forcing it as a language instruction. So when a Zulu kid shows up at the age of 5 or 6 to start primary school, they're taught in English, or, you know, a Xhosa kid, or a Venda, or a Tswana, or a Tutu, or an Afrikaner. And nobody's up in arms about this except AfriForum and a few white South African, it seems, when it affects everybody. And then what I've been saying for the longest time, Ike, is that expropriation without compensation is a political tool that will be used by the government of the day at some point to punish its political opponents. You should never have the ability to take people's property without compensation. And what we've seen on this topic is nothing but a passel of lies coming from government officials. Of course, Ronnie Lamola runs around, he gets interviewed on Deutsche Welle, he says, every country in the world has this expropriation without compensation. Even the United States has it in their constitution. That's a lie. The United States Constitution, you must give fair and adequate compensation is guaranteed in the United States Constitution. There's no such thing as expropriation without compensation. This is a tool to punish political opponents. I think the land is a red herring. Yes, it can be used for that, but Section 25 of the Constitution clearly states that if you take property, which includes anything, not just land, it says it right there in the Constitution, you must give, it must be for public purpose, in the public interest, it must just and adequate compensation. And now they're passing an act that says, well, they can just confiscate buildings in central business district in Joburg and Hillbrow because they're abandoned. Of course, many of these buildings are abandoned because people came in, gangsters, and forced people out of the building and then took it over. And when people tried to get them evicted, the squatters were protected by the police. And now they're saying it's abandoned. It's such a mess. The laws are being contorted now in South Africa to allow criminality and to allow the government to profit from the situation. And it's not going to be just white people that pay the price. It's going to be all South Africans. That's the argument I've been making. But it sounds like it's falling on deaf ears, and it really frustrates me.
I'll tell you this. There is a difference between being intelligent and being wise. A majority of these politicians, they are not wise, and they want to win an argument. And I can tell you, for free of charge, they don't have a counter. Even if we were to be sanctioned by the West, it would be worse, for a man in the street. Maybe these politicians, they will cover themselves, they will go to China or, use the looted monies. And sometimes you've got to have a bigger picture. You've got to reach a compromise. Look, in 1994, I was young, in my 20s. There are so many things that I was unhappy about. But looking back, with the benefit of hindsight, somewhere you've got to compromise. There was a compromise in 1910. I'm sure Afrikaners were not happy, but, you cannot get everything that you want, in this lifetime. Sometimes you must compromise. And there is massive land in the hands of government. If you're gonna if you're gonna expropriate, I believe that the best that you can do, if where you need to pay compensation, pay compensation. I believe that Section 25, was okay, in that regard. But now issues are being politicized, and you look at the issue of the language. I mean, what is so wrong when a group of people saying that we want to preserve our language? I mean, you look at Orania, it's been also politicized. I said, Orania, I think it started, there were few people, 300, 600, it became 2,000. And you say, if they are there preserving their own language, their culture, how is that affecting me? I'm more affected by the policies of this government, by the corruption of this government, than people who want to preserve their language in Orania. And the same Pillar Act, it also allows people to come into this country undocumented, to take up space, of which this is the part where it also affects Black people. For me, I think that Black people should also protect their own language. You should copy what AfriForum is doing. Take this government to court, and have our civil groups, because these guys, they're unaccountable to no one. This system of that if you don't like the government, you're going to come after 5 years, it's not enough. There should have been, electoral courts where, after your term is finished, you've looted or you've promised us that you're going to deliver this in your manifesto. We should take you to court. You should pay. You should forfeit your benefits. There must be something. You cannot just come and loot and then you've got your presidential packages. So for me, I don't see anything wrong with the Afrikaners when they want to preserve their language. And we should be doing the same way as the Zulus. They want to preserve their language. They're proud. We should be saying, what other languages that needs to be empowered, and, be elevated instead of wanting to destroy what is already there. That's what has happened. Instead of elevating townships like Soweto to be like Sentin, we want to reduce Sentin to be below Soweto, which is problematic for me. So for me, I think that the Afrikaners, they have a right because they're here. They're not going anywhere, and they are integral part of South Africa. I mean, they should also have their own language, and trying to punish them, I don't think that is taking us forward. Look, I had issues with the American foreign, policy. But if you're gonna come and say you want to punish Americans, you want to name or rename certain tribes to be Leila Kali so that you can have that in their letterhead, to what benefit? How does it help you? Other than ego. But at the end, the Americans, they say, no, we are pulling out. We're going to react. We're going to, do certain things, in your treaties and all that to affect, and we have no counter. How does that help you? So unfortunately, these guys, they don't think. They think, I mean, for an example, under Mandela, we were not really friends, even though we are aligned, but we are not so outright. We are not friends of Iran or the West or China. We are somewhere in the middle. But now they've taken a side. They've taken a side that we are going with the East, we are going with anti-Israel, we are going with anti-America. But majority of their trade is with the Western countries. You look at countries like China. Even if they go to China, it brings fully finished raw products. It takes raw materials, and they even bring their own labor. There's little to gain from China other than exploitation. So I may hate you, but if I'm surviving, in our partnership, it is important for me to keep that partnership alive. In spite of history. I mean, look at Cuba. We may say Cuba, historically, they are our friends, but you've got to be practical. We're benefiting more from the United States than Cuba. We're benefiting more from Western countries than Russia, China. So at the moment, so you've got to be strategic. You cannot just antagonize everyone. I mean, we had no business to get into the International Criminal Court against Israel. I mean, there are countries, who are older than us. They've never made it their business. We should have kept it at diplomatic level, at United General Council, and that's it. But unfortunately, in this country, we have an ANC problem. The ANC, they take their problems and then they make them South Africa's problem. ANC wasn't deaf. They were owing suppliers. So Iran, when it comes and say, here's the money, to avoid liquidation, but you must do ABC for us. And they took the last stature that we had, because at least there was still some respect that we're mediators. They just threw that out of the window. We sided against Israel, and there we are. Nobody respects us. Even worse today.
Oh, it is bad.
Yes, and they ignore. The Middle East conflict is quite complex. You can't just take one side. You just have to, take a neutral approach and mediate, and that's it.
It's interesting you say that, because the South African government, the politicians are poking America in the eye and saying this whole executive order from Trump is simply about Israel's ICJ case. It definitely plays a role, but the chummy relationship with Iran plays a bigger role, plus all the slights and offenses against the U.S. over the past several years, which I've enumerated multiple times in my program. All of that plays a role. But the interesting thing about this is that the United States has been the largest single donor to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, what I call Judea, and in Gaza. We've given billions and billions and billions of dollars for development of those places, and yet we are attacked. So that's not a pro or anti-Palestinian position. It's just a statement of the obvious. Like Zimbabwe still whines about U.S. sanctions, but we're the single largest donor, which kept millions of Zimbabweans from starving to death and dying from HIV, even when they were killing farmers and confiscating farms. We were still doing this. But somebody said something in the chat a little while ago. I want to cover this really quickly because you were talking about intelligence and wisdom. And Peter O'Connor said intelligence is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it. And I think that's accurate. And I think that it's maybe something, although I think he did intentionally, but if he did it by mistake, maybe knowing what to say and knowing when to say it is a lesson that Ibrahim Rasool could learn.
Yeah, Rasool, for me, I think he overstepped his mark.
Oh, by a wide margin.
Yeah, because as a diplomat, you should make sure that there is like smooth relations, other than taking the political posture, other than attacking your host country. For me, it shows that even within the ANC, they don't speak with one voice, and it's gonna be worse. When Cyril Ramaphosa's term is coming to near end, and you could see that even with the Ukraine-Russia's war, when it started, Cyril Ramaphosa was more on the Western side or American side and Ukraine side, because he was saying Russia, they are the aggressors. But when Naledi Pandor came in, he said no, Naledi Pandor was siding with Russia. Then the policy changed. It means that they don't speak with one voice. So they are, I don't know, they are so polarized. So, but for me, Rasool should have stepped back. There are certain things that you don't say. You just keep quiet to yourself. You take, into account the interest of the country, and that's it.
Well, I mean, I've served in multiple embassies. I've lived and served in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Niger, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia as a diplomat. And I've also worked in over 30 African countries and most of the Middle Eastern countries, and then in Europe as well. And you just don't say those things. I mean, you can say them in private, but you certainly don't say them for public consumption, because that's not your role. Your role is to represent your country, not express your personal views and opinions unless you've been given that message to send. I mean, look, it's like when Ruben Brigidi went to the press about the Lady R. What the backstory for that people don't pay attention to is that when the Lady R incident occurred, people in Simonstown were taking videos. They live right above the damn naval base, are taking pictures and the video of these vehicles down there late at night and containers being taken off the Russian ship, Lady R, and more stuff being loaded up on it. And people are like, what's going on? That was in the press briefly, and people demanded of the government, what's going on in Simonstown? We want to know what's going on with this ship in the middle of the night. And the government just blew it off and ignored it because they can get away with that in domestic context. Well, did they think the American government didn't know about this? We sanctioned the Russian contractor that owned that ship. Now, those sanctions aren't something South Africa's comply with because they weren't global. It was U.S. sanction. But we politely asked diplomatically, Brigidi and the U.S. government approached South Africa and said, could you tell us what's going on? We were concerned about this. They're at war, and we don't want that ship, out here. And they blew off for 5 months. They ignored Brigidi and the U.S. government. And finally, Brigidi was told by Washington, go to the press. And so, I mean, but Brigadier didn't just do that because he wanted to.
Yes.
That was an instruction from Washington, because if it had been instruction from Washington, like I guarantee you this, Reuben Brigadier would have been on the next flight home, like Ibrahim Rasool was. Not because he would have been PAG'd by South Africa, but because he would have been withdrawn by the American government if he went off the reservation and did what he wanted to do. He was acting on instructions from Washington. And trust me, I worked for Reuben Brigadier when he was ambassador in Ethiopia at the African Union. This is a gentleman that knows politics. He would not overstep his bounds because he has ambitions to become a governor or a senator, and he'll never get there if he screws up. So he did what he was told to do, and that's what ambassadors are supposed to do, not share their personal opinions.
And the reason that, as much as they say that they were aggrieved, the reason that they didn't fire him is because they knew that he was telling the truth. This government is so used to ignoring us. Whenever we raise certain issues, they ignore us. But the Americans, I mean, they had intelligence. I mean, these are guys, they had satellite images. They had every information that the Russians were here. And they knew about it. The ANC knew that these guys, they know the real story. So that's why, they just kept quiet. That's why they didn't expel the U.S. ambassador, because he was actually telling the truth. So, which, I find it, crazy, that these guys, like, they continue to harm this country, to take decisions that are not taking us forward. South Africa, when it comes to this global politics, international politics, we should have maintained that Mandela stance that, we are mediators, we want peaceful resolutions, but not take sides. But unfortunately, when you're led by corrupt people, they're given monies, they think only for themselves, and then they take money, they compromise the country, which is very sad.
Well, your point there, Ike, about the Lady R and about the Americans knowing about it. I worked in the intelligence community for several decades. I can neither confirm nor deny that the U.S. government knew anything at all. I can neither confirm nor deny.
But you think that they will just make up statements like that without any proof, without any evidence?
Exactly.
Because they knew that, yes, they would not just come out and make those statements. South Africa was supposed to disprove them if they were telling the lies, not ignore them. But exactly. And the reason that they did not expel the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador, because they didn't want the issue to prolong. They wanted it to die, because who knows what could have been revealed.
100% on that. So I want to get to, before we wrap up, I want to get to the conversation about Trump and what's going on with this refugee thing from your perspective. But there's a question here from someone, and there have been several questions, folks. My apologies for not getting to them. But Ike and I had a kerfluffle about the time. He had 6 a.m. in his mind, and yes. I had 6 p.m.
I'm thinking 6 a.m. and I woke up and...
Yeah. So Ike was supposed to come on 6 p.m. South Africa time, which is noon my time, and then he wrote me. He's like, "Hey, I'm waiting. Are we doing this now?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, man?" So Ike came on rather unannounced. So he's on the program now. So we weren't really prepared to answer questions, but I have brought a few questions, and let me get one from the chat here for you, Ike. And this is relaxing positive energy. I guess this is a person that sits around and goes, namaste. I don't know. Relaxing positive energy is his username. Says, Chris, ask Ike, what does he think the future of South Africa holds, and what can be done to change? Most people don't want to leave South Africa, but some have no other choice. So how can we change trajectory short of getting Elon Musk to load all his politicians on SpaceX on their Starship and send them to Mars? Because, by the way, I've already paid for Julius Malema's trip to Mars. It's one way, by the way. I didn't pay for the return trip.
Isn't it funny that the Julius Malemas of this world, the EFF, I think, I can't remember what year was it, but Rupert said they were here, asking for donations and monies. Isn't it funny that they are funded by the very same guy that in public, they vilify. But the future of South Africa, it lies in the voters, the voters of this country. They should go beyond, struggle credentials, look for what's good for the country. And I can tell you, I normally say this, if between ANC and South Africa, if the ANC wins elections or the next elections or survives, South Africa can't. Both South Africa and the ANC cannot coexist. One must die, and it cannot be the country dying. So ANC, it has to move away from the political scene and move away from our public lives. And maybe the coalition government. I didn't like coalitions when it started because it was something new. But maybe it's working because guys, they can check each other out, when they, they are all in government, in the GNU, but the voters, because the voters, they vote for the very same people who created or who continuously create the problem. They need to be informed more. We need to move away, from all these politics of post-colonial, black and white, and think, what is it that you can, implement, things that we could use to take the country forward, and I think that will be the future. But so long as you are still holding on, to the struggle, yes. I mean, my children, they don't want to know, who was in exile, who did this. It's all good. That is history. But they want to survive. They want to go to school. They want to, be sure that their future is secured. So if we can, educate the voters more, because they're the ones who vote for this country, and start building things, and start investing in projects, build things that will last 50 years from now, have a vision, beyond thinking for myself, if I'm appointed into a political office and say, I just want to loot, it's my time to eat. Build like the Chinese and strengthen the NPA. We've got, the prosecuting authority. I mean, there's so many people who should be facing charges now. They are not, and it should be treasonous to do certain things, corruption. It should go for a long time. We need to see ministers going to jail for a long time, like in other countries in China, for life, if you stole a certain amount of money. So unfortunately, here in South Africa, it's a different case. I mean, we had, I'm thinking of a scene back, where an intelligent minister, his wife, was involved in drugs. I mean, that should be scandalous, but yeah, people don't resign here,
Yeah, no, we caught a colonel who was a foreign area officer, something I did in Africa, a regional specialist, but he was for Latin America. He was in Colombia, and he and his wife were using their diplomatic passport to bring drugs into Miami from Colombia. He'll be spending the rest of his life in jail. He's not getting out. He's at Leavenworth Correctional. And in Vietnam, a billionaire, businesswoman, she's been sentenced to death. I don't know if she's been executed yet for corruption. That's pretty harsh, but that's taking corruption seriously. So, Ike, let me turn attention here to something very important I think people really need to think about. Listen, first off, I don't work for the U.S. government. I'm retired from the military now. I'm an independent journalist and an author, and among other things, a consultant. So I don't speak for the U.S. government. In fact, I rubbish the U.S. government on far too many occasions. Less now that Trump's president than when Biden was president, but I still rubbish it on things. I don't have a dog in the fight as far as the refugee program. To me, it's heartbreaking that any South Africans feel they want or have to leave South Africa for whatever their circumstances are. I don't encourage anyone to leave. I also don't encourage anyone to leave. I just bring them the facts as best I know them and analysis of what the situation is. But it's beyond belief what's going on here. We are in war, an information war. The first casualty war is the truth. And the first casualty war is Donald Trump's executive order and the politicians in South Africa and Agri-SA and all these other groups saying that Donald Trump is aggressive towards South Africa. He's attacking South Africa. All Trump did on the 20th of January was suspend foreign aid for the entire world. And then South Africa decided to go, hey, what about us? Yeah. No, you didn't hear Bangladesh saying that. You didn't hear Timor saying that. You didn't hear Kenya complaining about their aid being shut off on the world stage. Only South Africa attacked Trump for attacking South Africa. When he didn't attack South Africa, he didn't attack anybody. He just cut off money for the world for 90 days, and they made a big stink out of it. Now they have an executive order and says you're not getting money again. Now that could be repaired in the future, but you're not getting any money anymore. And by the way, since you're mistreating people in South Africa, we're going to let them come in as refugees. My concern for South Africa, thinking bigger picture, my immediate concern is for the people who feel the need they have to go. But the bigger picture is that if 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 people want or try to leave South Africa, who are taxpayers, who are contributing to that base that you talked about, that 7 million people, and they provide jobs and this, that, and the other, this is going to be devastating in South Africa. We've already seen capital flight of white, black, and brown South Africans to Canary Wharf, to Ireland, to Japan, to France, to New Zealand, Australia, US, and Canada. This will be unprecedented. I hope it doesn't become a mass exodus, but it's a pretty frightening prospect, and it seems to me like South African politicians aren't paying attention. If they were thinking ahead, like we're talking about vision down the road, they would be thinking about what comes in 3, 5, 10, 15 years. And for me, that's puzzling, Ike, because my entire life, I've thought about what I'm going to do 3, 5, 10, 20 years from now. I lived on a professional plan, what my career was going to be, that I designed in 1984 as a private in the Army, what I was going to be when I retired. I decided it was going to be regular Army, military intelligence, foreign area officer for sub-Saharan Africa, become a full colonel and serve as defense HSA in South Africa. And all that became true except the last one. My point is that that's a vision. That's thinking ahead. And it doesn't always come true. You hit bumps and deviations along the road. But the politicians in South Africa seem to have no vision, or they don't care what's going to happen to the country. It's heartbreaking. What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree or disagree with some of my points there?
I mean, what do you expect if you see the senior politicians? There are people, some of them from childhood or maybe through their teenage years, they were in jail. Some of them, they went to exile in failed states like Tanzania, Zambia, Angola. When they came in here and, superimposed into a first world economy. South Africa was a first world economy with a third world, of course. And you make someone who's never seen a tarred road, comes from a village, somebody who will have to ride on a donkey for 200 kilometers before he sees the tar road and then connect to the train station. You make that guy a minister of transport. What does he know about a pothole? A complex economy like South Africa. If people were in exile, somewhere in Norway, they were in exile in UK, you'd say at least they have seen how a first world economy, translates when they come in here. They were not ready to govern. There are certain things that, it's nice to say in front of your followers and say, let them go. But at the end of the day, you lose skills and you have no counter. Like I said earlier on, in all the countries here in Africa, where white people have been expelled, it's not a nice picture when you look back, and you expel people who are contributing to the economy, people who are creating jobs. And I mean, our school, during Bantu education, it did not train us, enough to create employment. We were trained to be workers, to feed into the labor market. ANC, when it came in, it was supposed to nurture, that those skills, advance those skills that we had, under apartheid and magnify them, and create, the bigger cake instead of wanting to take, from A and give it to B, So unfortunately, we don't have guys with vision. Donald Trump, he's putting his country first. That's what South Africa should do. That's what the rest of the world should do. I mean, if I'm a father in my household, I cannot be reliant on next door neighbors, what they're doing. So South Africans, they should be worried about themselves more, and cater for their people more, and look around and be creative. And what is it that you can do, instead of worrying about what Donald Trump is doing. I like Donald Trump. He puts his country first. Even on the question of immigration, he's putting his people first. So South Africa should learn from Donald Trump. But unfortunately, the woke culture, and I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa usually doesn't say much. He's very quiet. But now I heard that he's very vocal, against Trump. But he's reliant on Trump because of this wokeness. The globalists. I don't know whether it's the people who are funding him, the globalist wing that is funding him. They're forcing him to speak against Trump, which is also happening in the States. And I foresee that, even in the coming years, Donald Trump is going to be under heavy attack, with Elon Musk, But yeah, that's where we are. But you cannot just expel people. I mean, from 94, we've lost skills. We've lost people who could build things, aeroplane in Denel. Today, the police don't have bullets. Today, police, they don't go, to test their skills and shoot, at a shooting range. There are no bullets. Police, they used to be, going to, for psychological evaluation. They don't go there. Everything has been cut, the budget, Yeah, so you can't just say, let them go, Abahambe. And if you cannot even replace that, you cannot even come up with those skills. That's not wise. So we should be, talking to United States. I may not like some certain things about United States, but it doesn't mean that, I cannot have partnerships with people that I don't like, if it benefits both of us. I mean, there was a partnership between the Soviets and the United States, and, when it comes to nuclear, because both of them could just end the world, but they needed to cooperate, Afrikaners cooperated with the English here. So, but unfortunately, you don't have intelligent politicians, they're thinking that, if they can steal a few tender monies, and go to ship-ins, that's all.
That's really sad, but I mean, I think that kind of sums it up. What's really happening here? It's our turn to eat. We're going to eat now and not care about the future. No vision and no concern for the greater body politic and the greater body of the country. And it's really sad. I mean, there are a lot of poor people in South Africa for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons are the macroeconomic policies of the ruling party, which has been in power for 3 decades and could have righted the ship. Instead, South Africa's ship is listing heavily to starboard. It's about to tip over, and it's really sad to see, Ike. Listen, I think we could talk for hours, but you're a busy man, and I don't want to intrude on all your time. You're very generous with your time this morning. So not to rush you off the show, but we've been at this for an hour and a half, I think, now, and I think that's probably a good time to ask you for your final thoughts. Ike, I always give my guests a chance to get a final thought in here if they've got some positive to say or a word of warning to people or something like that. But what would you like to share with the audience? We got a pretty good audience this morning on a Sunday morning before people run off to church. So any final thoughts before we wrap up, Ike?
There's not much that I can say other than that. We should learn from movements like your Broederbond. They had objectives. By 1980, they fulfilled their objectives. They built things. The Afrikaners, they didn't have much land. There are certain things that they couldn't touch. They couldn't touch the economy. Learn from other people who've made something out of their lives. There are other nationalities, that they were in worse situations than us, in terms of casualties, in terms of, the length of their enslavement, but they came up tops. But with us, we cannot be victims forever without coming up with solutions. We have to learn to live, side by side. We may not like each other. Like now, I've got neighbors human beings are quarrelsome fellas, but when it comes to things, things that matter, if there's crime in the area, I must warn my neighbor. We might have fought last week because my dogs were barking loud, but I must tell them and say, my neighbor, what's happening? I see, some people outside. Do you know anything about them? So we need to be wise, and look, I don't eat dogma. I don't eat all the scientific explanation of the Karl Marx capitalism. I want to survive, that's it. So I think we should, learn from all those that, came before us, and don't make the mistakes that they've made. South Africa was the last to be liberated. We could have learned from Ghana, we could have learned from Zimbabwe, but we are doing exactly what they did, the mistakes that they did. Look at the Idi Amin. Idi Amin removed all the Indian traders and replaced them with black traders who didn't know even where to stop when the merchandise had, finished. So we must learn from the mistakes of others, and where others have done well, we must appreciate that. Apartheid, it might have been declared a war crime, but there were certain things that happened. We had people who were skilled under apartheid, who could build furniture, plumbers, artisans. Today, I can go into a biggest townships like Soweto. I'll struggle to find a qualified electrician, with a piece of paper who says I can do ABC. Instead, the guys who are coming now from Malawi, from, these other foreign countries, we've not built anything since 1994. It's looting all the time. Guys, they steal money, and you see guys driving a Lamborghini on top of a bus sewage pipe. That's not nice. Afrikaners had a policy that even though those who looted, you cannot eat, in front of others, but as if maybe there was 100% budget, 2% maybe would be stolen. But with us, 95%, if not 99%, is stolen. And then what do you expect? And then you're going to blame the West. You're going to blame America. You're going to blame Washington. That is criminal. So South Africans, black South Africans, they should not forgive the ANC, because the ANC, I think for me, it's enemy number one, because it was, or disguised, as a movement that was supposed to solve black poverty or South Africa's poverty, and it did not do that. It did the opposite. South Africans should not forgive the ANC. Actually, if it was according to me, we should be having a Nuremberg trial of some sort. There's so many people that need to face jail sentence. and be locked, forever. So, but the South African voters, it's up to them, because I find it strange that sometimes people, they worship people who terrorize them, maybe the Stockholm syndrome. I mean, I can tell you, the people who've looted, they walk in the townships, they're celebrated as heroes. I find it, strange. I mean, you look at parties such as the MK, the Jacob Zumas of this world, I mean, the only thing that I remember, I mean, his children, all of a sudden, they were living in opulence, his few friends stealing, and then you use that thing that I'm empowering black people. No, that was not the case. Cyril Ramaphosa is doing the same. Thabo Mbeki did the same. So, yeah, the South African voters, they need to wise up and look beyond, check the policies, look at the economy, where it's going, and we must not allow ourselves to be divided by these black and white issues. We must look beyond that.
Well, I think those are wise words. You did mention the Broederbond. It's not my Broederbond. I think you just said that as a statement for People's Broederbond. My ancestors arrived in Virginia in 1621 and fought against the Powhatan Indians and have been in North America since then. So I'm not one of those South Africans. But I think these are wise words. Everything you just said there. I think people need to focus on a lot of points.
Just to interfere, the Broederbond, they were strategic. Everything they allowed it, and they didn't have massive numbers, maybe 12,000 people.
Max.
They included rectors, they included, governors, and they said, we're going to solve the Afrikaner poverty. But with us here, it's a free for all. Each and every minister comes with his policy because I want to loot, I want to eat. What is it that I can do? I mean, you got to hate South Africans, to govern the way the ANC is doing. You got to hate South Africans. And unfortunately, this government, it hates its own people. So its own people, they need to wake up and wise up. Maybe the GNU, it will help because they're checking each other. But sometimes you find that, and I hope that's not the case where you have a collaboration of criminals. I hope they check each other, and, keep each other in check.
Well, let's hope so. Ike, this has been amazing, especially given the fact that you just got up and we had a snafu on what the time it is, and appreciate your flexibility coming on now. So you're not on the hook to come back on for 6 p.m. tonight, okay? I'll just tell you that now.
My apologies for wearing a cap. Next time I'll be more handsome than this. Just that, I woke up at 5. I normally wake up at, I sleep 4 hours, in between 3 to 4 hours. But when I woke up, I had the funniest dream. But, so then when I woke up, I look at the time, 5:30, I almost collapsed.
Well, and when I saw your message, I'm like, well, gosh, the guy's up now. I feel guilty. I don't want to make him wait, another, 12 hours to have this conversation.
If I could have done it half past, today it's Sunday here, and I could have done it at 6 p.m. Wherever I am, I would have taken my PC or my phone. And
well, I appreciate that. But I think what people need to understand about this conversation, Ike, you and I, other than a couple text messages and a couple voice notes, have never met. We've never talked. We don't know each other before this conversation. You came into a cold. I came into a cold. And I think we had a very good conversation and touched on a lot of big issues here. The audience certainly enjoyed it. So imagine.
I got your numbers from Angelo.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, imagine.
And he should be protected, because Angelo is he's our Elon Musk in terms of he's Elon Musk before Elon Musk.
He's the OG. He's the
OG. Yes, but unfortunately, he's the one who's been persecuted and feel aggrieved. And this is where the black and white issue comes into play, and it is quite sad, because I feel that, I don't know if he was black, he would be having massive support and backup, maybe it's because, he's white. But if a white person is telling you that so-and-so, has been looting you, has been pickpocketing you, why not support that person, And in spite of what I know now, they're going to try to come up with stories and, to make him look bad. But for me, to be honest, I would go a long way with Eugene Terreblanche. I would go a long way with Verwoerd. Even if he says things that I don't like, Even if he doesn't like me, as long as we've got common values, as long as we've got common interests, if we both love this country, want good for all of us, I'm okay with that. We might differ in politics. With us, we must learn that, sometimes we must coexist with people who don't see things the way we see it. I mean, a fellow like Steve Hofmeyer, when he speaks, he makes sense. He loves his people, and I understand him, and I love him for that. I mean, I love Steve Hofmeyer because when he speaks for his people, and he's historical, and he plays facts. Same as Donald Trump. Even Eugene Terraplant, when he spoke, and you understand that, this guy loves his people. Sometimes, his, I don't know, his objectives might clash, with mine, but we need to find, a synergy where we can work together and say, you know what, we both love this country. Where is it where we meet? And then we forge, ahead. So that's where I'm at, all these things of, look, I'm old now, I cannot be pushing the policies of being right, getting, people to like me because I say the things that they want to hear, At the end of the day, it's about survival. If there's a white person who's assisting me here, it is a black person, the Chinese, that person, we're good to go. I mean, here in my house, there's been many times, people trying to rob. The white neighbor will call me. Sometimes I've been caught and say, Ike, what's happening? The Indian neighbors will chase criminals. I mean, like I said, the people who vandalized me, people who robbed some of my previous properties, they were black like me. They didn't ask, they didn't want to know that I was active since the age of 12 for a black cause. Wherever I am, I've been trying to assist black people, but I was vandalized by my own people. So for me, the black and white issue, it doesn't really bother me, and I can disagree with you, but we can still be civil, And yeah, the same as in a relationship, I normally say that in a relationship, we don't love each other all the time, but unfortunately, sometimes our sisters will tell you, I'm no longer fulfilled. I said, listen, I was telling my partner, you don't leave the relationship because you no longer feel that way, over a temporary thing such as a feeling, you'll love me next year. It's fine. Let's continue. We just agree.
Well, look, it's a similar situation with a lot of South Africans that are interested in the refugee program and talking about coming to America. And they're all talking about coming and camping in my front lawn. And I've warned them to stay off my lawn. I don't want you on my lawn. I say, get off my lawn. I want you on my lawn. But the other thing, too, I want to make a point. You mentioned Angelo's white. I'm confused. I thought he was Italian. I'm a Viking. Are Italians white? No, I'm
I don't know. I don't know because I mean there were colored people who passed white.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
The past,
just
because it's what I see. For
just
me, they fall into white.
Yeah, I know. The point I'm making, Angelo, is it's a silly point people make. If we all couldn't if we all weren't the same species, we wouldn't be able to knock boots and produce kids. So we're all human beings. That's what matters at the end of the day.
Okay, then.
All right, cool. All right, Ike Kumalo, kia loa, bye donkey for coming on the program. It's been a distinct pleasure, and we need to do this again. I'll reach out to you, and we'll talk about some more things. All right.
All the time.
All right, cool beans. Ike, I'll let you drop off the chat, and I'm just going to continue with my program. Okay.
Okay, then.
All right, folks. Ike Kumalo. There you go. There you go. Well, I hope you found that interesting. That was kind of a surprise, huh? Well, look at that. Big special surprise. Thanks to Ike for being here. What I'm going to do now, folks, is I'm going to end not this broadcast. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to end this call, and I'll come right back in the other camera, okay? So hang tight. I've got to turn the Zoom off. And in order to stop that, hang on a second. All right, cool. That's done now. Okay, now I can turn the camera back on just a second here. And boom, there I am back. Wow, how was that for a surprise, ladies and gentlemen? How was that for a surprise? That was unscripted, unplanned. It was a secret. I wasn't going to tell people. I've kind of alluded to the fact that I have Ike on the channel. He was going to come on later today. So, cool beans. Siabonga, yes. Yeah, okay, Mr. Jordan, Sawabona. I see you. Yeah, Siabonga. Yep. So, okay, hang on a second. All right, so I sent them that. All right, cool beans. All right, folks, how was that? Yeah, Xavier, it was pretty interesting to see Ike say exactly what Chris has been telling people for a long time. He's of the same opinion that the Lady Pandor's trip to Tehran was to secure funding to pay off the party planner debt that the ANC, he didn't say it explicitly, but that's where he's going, pay off the party planner debt that the ANC had for 102 million rand, plus the fines that were another 46 million or something like that, and then money for their birthday celebration last year. Yeah, interesting what's going on there. Yeah, that was fantastic, guys. Yeah, that was really epic. I really enjoyed it. A lot of you obviously know who Ike is. Some of you don't. That was Ike Kumalo. He's an advocate in South Africa. And yeah, and Jan van Driel knows who he is. That's for darn sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. You know, this is a really weird... let me show you this very quickly, folks. This is odd to see an audience continue to grow and never dip. Check this out. So on that screen on the bottom, you can see where it starts to, that little arc, it goes up from right to left. What you're looking there, that is the growth of the audience from when I started 11:30 p.m. until 1:30. And look at that, it just continually went up the whole time. We kept growing the audience and people kept hanging around. It's amazing. Clearly that was something of interest to folks. So, wow. I really enjoyed it. So now I'll just do my regular news later in the day. But I do have, in about 7 hours, someone coming on to talk about finances and financial planning for people considering moving abroad. I think that you'll find that interesting, particularly those interested in the refugee program. So whom have I missed in the chat? Suzette says, great interview. JP says, great show. Debbie, definitely need more people like him. Charles van Onselen, the voice of reason. Lynette Devet, Sariana Maurice Sneeman. This is the likes of people I worked with in Soweto. I had so much hope, but look how we are today. Yep, you're right. Right about that, Jan. Eben van Wyk, welcome to you. Rentia Shepard-Kruger. The Hutful Bikers, that was brilliant. Two great-minded people, an important discussion. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. All I can say is, wow, just too bad he's not as sexy as Brai Burki girl. Yeah, we'll do the Brai Burkis later on. Ike has magnificent beard when he grows it and his badass ladies, man. Absolute legend. They were quite pissed when Ike said, yeah, Xavier really enjoyed that too. AJ Quinn enjoyed it. Looks like most people enjoyed it. Wow. Yeah. All right, Gadget. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. Mandy, Loretta Veritas is here. I like Iron Mike. There you go. That's pretty cool. Excellent interview. It was a cool guy. I love his honesty. Yeah. So what'll happen now, folks, is when I get off air, I'm going to take that, edit out the first portion, a couple minutes, and I'm going to load it up onto it as a separate interview. All right, I'm going to do that, and then it'll just be the interview. So you'll be able to just watch the interview rather than watch all the extraneous stuff for the program, because this was a surprise. People weren't expecting this. I didn't plan on doing this. So there you go. But I can see if people don't like me, they like Ike, because we've already dropped. We dropped from a peak of 658. We're down to 595. So we've lost 63 people since Ike left. So y'all came for Ike, not for me. I get it. I know. I'm yesterday's fish. There's so many brilliant minds now. Why don't we all get together? And yeah, change South Africa, Rakes. I agree. Yep. Steve Hoffmeyer told me he just doesn't really do political interviews anymore. I know. Cool. I know. I just want to interview Steve, not about politics, but about music. And Steve and I are friends, but he doesn't want to come on. But he does his own thing. He does politics. He doesn't want to be interviewed though. So that's fine. MCM is back. Good to see you there. Ike Kumalo, you're going to make a front page of the news with that statement. Yeah, Angelo is a treasure to be protected, absolutely. In addition to the Colonel's podcast, also like, yeah. Folks, I don't have Ike's, if one of my moderators has Ike's channel, if you put the link in there, because I was going to do this later today, but Ike and I were communicating, but he's so busy, I'm so busy, we had some confusion there. And initially he told me I had sent him a voice note saying, hey, it's this is a couple of days ago. It's 3 a.m. I'm going to go to bed. And then, can we do this at like 6 p.m. your time in South Africa? And then he wrote to me, he goes, okay, I can do it at 3 a.m. I'm like, no, not at 3 a.m. I was up at 3 a.m. Can we do it at 6 p.m. your time? He said, okay. And then I'm on here and I get a message from Mike saying, hey, I'm up. I'm ready. Are we going to start? And I'm like, what? No, it's in 12 hours, man. And rather than waste the opportunity, we went cold and he came in and we just had, I think it was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys too. His data was not great. So if you understand with the Zoom session, when you bring somebody up full screen, it pulls more data from their side. If they've got a weak data connection, they start getting jerky. So when he had a good connection, I would leave him up on the screen so you could just see him. You don't need to see my face the whole time. But some of the times, because his connection was slowing down, speeding up, I had to go to both those, because when he's smaller on the screen, it takes less data and it takes less of a demand on him. So it's something I learned with South Africans. They don't always have great data connections. A great man. Thank you for what you're doing, says Robert Schweppenhauser. Wow, that is a name. Schweppenhauser. Thank you so much for that. That's an unusual surname. Thank you both for a good interview, Mrs. Peter. You two give more hope than a panel of South African public. Yeah, thank you for that. Except for the Brybrook chick, this is the most important interview yet. You're really into the Brybrook chick. She's got a boyfriend. Thank you both for honest and open discussion, says Mildred Ferrer. Imagine this is cold call, essentially. This is like a cold call. Educate our bulk population. Yeah, we need to do that, Dwayne. And Naranda asked a very good question, Naranda Zeman. The problem is who's going to replace the ANC? The DA is also leftist. Yep, yeah, good point. Good news, sadly, South African masses will not have influence. What a pity. Okay, Malawian works for you. Cool. Good discussion between two brilliant individuals who did it out of mutual love of South Africa and not from ego. Thank you for that, Hutful Bikers. Appreciate that. SAP's been following him for about a month now. Yep. All right, a lot of good comments here. I don't see any trolls saying anything bad. That's good to see. Okay, the police no longer know how to disassemble and assemble a firearm, let alone go to the range and use it. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so we went back up 609. People came back. Okay, thank you for being here. So, yeah, you guys liked it. Okay, so if I did a poll and said who liked the interview with Ike, I'm sure it'd be almost 100%. So, yeah, one thing that this program didn't have is people pushing the like button. You all fell asleep because Ike was so engrossing, so informative, so insightful. You didn't hit the damn like button, man. We only got 497 likes. There's still 600 people here and 3,700 tuned in at a midnight broadcast. Hit the damn like button. Come on, man. Quit being lazy. You didn't have to pay to watch this.
That was easy.
Least you could do is hit the like button. I mean, come on. Especially this one. This is a really good one. And I chased 6 people away. Starlink comes from Zambia. Well, we're not going to inquire about that. Viewer numbers mainly drop because a lot of us are leaving for church. Yeah, I know, Francois. I'm having fun there, Francois. That's why we want to get them on at that time instead of wait till later. Virginia Martin says, absolute gem, Colonel. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Jacques takes takeaway meals for one average $35. What are you talking about, Arctic? What takeaway meals? Where are you eating after $35? It only cost me $18 to eat at McDonald's. It's 22 at Five Guys. Ike is great. We need more like him. Yes, you do. I do. I like the conversation the viewer said about intelligence, wisdom. Yeah, Rohan, what's going on, man? You've got my picture there. All right. Yeah. So 541. That's a little bit better, but you guys can do better than that. Anyway. Yeah. So tonight we did the video from the new song from Tom McDonald. You can't cancel all of us, man. That was awesome. I love that song. Kruger's name and horsemanship. I missed something. We'll wait for short video. Thanks, Chris. All right. Oh, you got horses. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, there are horses in Wyoming, but it's not for you. It's not for you. Wyoming's not for you. No. These are not the droids you're looking for. You want West Virginia, New Jersey, not Pennsylvania. I'm going to play it one more time, Christo, but I got to be careful how loud I make it because it's late at night. Okay. Bruce needs to learn how to multitask. I'm ironing while enjoying a good conversation. Bruce. Oh, okay. It's Bruce Meyer. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for a great morning. Got to go spoil the missus coffee. Okay, I'm going to play it one more time. We're going to wrap up here, and we're going to get out of here, okay? We're going to play Tom McDonald song, and I'm going to waller. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, I never got to the news. I had a whole bunch of news here. I didn't even get to it, man. Didn't even get to the news. That's funny. All right, so here we go. Just get to load. It's, for some reason, it's not loading. There it goes. Okay. Cool beans. All right, here we go. Tom McDonald, you can't cancel all of us, all right? Here we go, folks. And then we're going to wrap it up, and I'll be back later today with financial planning for those who are looking to move abroad, okay? Whatever title we're going to give that. Here you go. Tom McDonald. Enjoy this. Yes, I do ride horses, Rakes. I used to have an Appaloosa gelding, a quarter horse mare, a Morgan horse mare, and a Shetland pony. Used to have horses when I was a farmer. I ride horses infrequently. I do enjoy horseback riding, but the tack and the vet bills are too expensive, and I have no land. I'm not wealthy. I can't afford land around here, so I can't afford to have a horse or to board one. But yeah, I do ride horses when I get a chance. Tom McDonald, folks. Tom McDonald, his latest, probably arguably his best ever. What a catchy tune. Thanks for being here, folks. Can't cancel all of us. Boy, this would have been really a morale builder during the COVID scam, wouldn't it? But here we are now, folks, and Tom McDonald's put that one out. That is a huge one, a huge one. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. No, I don't have Tom McDonald's permission. Tom has said he won't put copyright strikes on people for using it. It will be a copyright claim, and he takes the revenue. So you can get away with playing it, and I've done that with songs in the past. But then they wind up getting deleted later on. Excuse me. All right, thanks a lot, folks. Yesterday you had a video giving more information about how to go about what documents you need to referee. Where can we find that video? You can't find the video? Okay, well, you must not be in the Telegram group because it was posted in the Telegram group. So very quickly, hang on. What really happened in the second refugee interview? That's this one here. That's where I was outside. I think this is the one you're talking about. In central Pennsylvania, this is the third update from an embassy interview related to the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program offer for Afrikaners in South Africa. You have to pardon me, it's raining out here. I'm standing in the rain to bring this story to you. So this is a person who went back for a second interview, and they asked more specific questions. Again, this is a preliminary. This was not an application for refugee resettlement, but just some of the questions to give you an idea what to expect. I think that's the video you're talking about. Here's the link to that video if you want to watch it. I'm happy to give it to you so it drives viewership to the video. So there it is. Also, one of my moderators has put together a list of the things from that information, made a Word document. And this is not an official document. This is not an endorsed document. This is just a cheat sheet that if you want to start putting stuff together, this is very considered one of my moderators, and I'll disclose who it is if my moderator lets me, but I don't think my moderator wants people to know who it was. So let me just show you here on the screen what this is. So they made a document here, and there's 2 pages there. So I'm going to make this so it's 1 page view, single page, 1 page, and I'm going to zoom in, and we'll make it bigger here so you can see. Let's go up to 130, about 130. 140. There you go. 143. Okay, so they put this down. So it's probably still not big enough for you all to see. Let me zoom, go higher there. Let's go a bit higher. 140, 170. Okay, there you go. All right, so this is something my moderator came up with, and I think it's brilliant. And if you're interested, I can make it available to people. All right, and yeah, so there you go. Your email addresses, phone numbers, highest level education, institution, phone numbers, private work numbers, email addresses. These are the questions they ask. And so international travel history, family details, relationship, full names. This is just, it's a cheat sheet. This isn't something the embassy asked for, but that's the kind of questions we're asking in interviews. So my moderator took the time to put this together: group affiliation since age 14, residential history, work history, medical issues, criminal record, fingerprinting. This is brilliant. I really appreciate preferred location, social media platforms. I mean, if you come with this, you're going to show that you're serious. If you came to me with this information and you had it in front of you, and I'm like, what are you reading from? Oh, it's a list of information I put together, which I assume you'd want to know about for this interview. You would be telling me you take this crap seriously. All right, you guys would love to have it? Okay. All right, if my moderator's here, can I share it? You can tell me in WhatsApp. Let me see if my moderator's here that made that, okay? Okay, so I'm not seeing anything from... I don't see anything from the moderator. So if that moderator writes to me right now in the chat, I'll tell you. But in the meantime, where can you get it? You can get it from me, Rohan. I'm going to print it and scan it as a PDF. I'll also make it available as a Word document, but I need to make sure the metadata is not there from the originator. See, from the originator, okay? All right. Thank you. I'm all free to work. Okay, it wasn't me, says Arctic. Yeah, I know it wasn't you, Arctic. It looks like a security clearance questionnaire sheet. Yeah, it's similar to that, but I mean, this is not an official thing. So, yeah. Anyway, Milo, how you doing there? I'm planning to take the resettlement program. You said I want to come prepared and not get caught with my pants down. So, you guys like that, huh? You like that? Okay. Well, we're gonna make that available then. Okay. In fact, I'm gonna print it out right now, and then I will actually put page numbers on the bottom of it. It needs to have page numbers. So insert so that people know which page they're on. Hang on a second here. I want to home, insert page number. Where the heck's it at here? Insert. There we go. Page numbers. Page number, bottom of page, and I like them on the right-hand side. There we go. Okay, now they got page numbers on it. Cool. Okay. I'll print it out, then I'll scan it as an Acrobat file, and you can print it out at home, okay? I just wanted to give you an umbrella when I watched that video. What's the umbrella for, Lynette? I don't get what's the umbrella for. It's raining. Okay, that's like 6 pages. It's kind of fine print. What I'll do is I'll probably make it so that it's also a little bit larger. Let's warm my printer at this hour. I will scan this in the morning and then make it, I'll save it as an Acrobat Word document, okay? That way I can take the metadata out of it. So, all right. All right, come on, Colonel Tom's Colab. What is with the Ben Shapiro? You're joking, right? Yeah, he didn't really do anything with Ben Shapiro. Just like he said, like 3 words. All right, cool. All right, you guys like that, huh? I'll convert it to a fillable PDF. You mean the Word document, Arctic? Okay, there you go. But I mean, yeah, fillable PDF, you know, anyway. Whiskey supplier is running low. All right, guys, it is 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've got an interview at 9 o'clock, which I'm not ready for yet, and I'm waiting to hear back from the gentleman. Looking to see. No, the gentleman hasn't written back to me yet, so I'll have to get up and do it in the morning. All right. Anyway, there you go. So, wow, that was epic with Ike Kumalo. I really enjoyed it. He wrote back to me. He enjoyed it as well. He apologized for the time confusion. No problem, man. It's stuff happens, you know. So, anyway, wow, we're down to 400 people now. The Ike crowd left. No, PDF, you can fill in all the info digitally and sign if you want. Yeah, but it's not an official form, Arctic, for anybody. I mean, unless you just want, you know, be able to hand it over to someone, you know, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we can make it available in both formats. I don't have Acrobat, the full program. I used to pay for it. It was $500 a year, but I'm not wealthy and I rarely use it. So, yeah, it was very engrossing, Quince. Okay. Yeah, no, I thanked my moderator already. To be honest, it's something I would have done if I'd only had time, but I don't have time to sit around and do that sort of thing. So it was very kind of the moderator to do that. I will have to watch again as a join. Yeah, well, I'm going to upload, Charles, the whole interview, which will just be, it'll be better quality than what you saw there. It'll be the best quality because it's actually the original file from Zoom, which popped up on the screen there at the end as you saw it when we were chatting, showing the screen. And what is the average income, average rent, and affordable car prices? That's, Jacques, what? I don't understand what your question has. Nothing to do with the questionnaire. We're talking about a questionnaire. It's a questionnaire. It has nothing to do with that. From Iranian and Russian students. Okay, of course. They have an illegal copy. Keeping Adobe out and bankrupt. Okay. All right, cool beans. All right, folks. That's going to wrap it up here. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And you guys have a request for the end? You want to hear? Do you want to hear Persona non grata? Or we just wrap it up here because I think we just wrap it up. Don't think you need to hear Persona non grata tonight. You guys have heard it enough. All right. Tolkien says, "Good morning, welcome." We're wrapping up, man. We're just closing here. So, all right, I'm just going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll catch you in the morning later on, okay? Yeah, it's 71. It's not 67,000 a month. The average income in the United States per capita income is 71,000 per year right now. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything, okay? People making 30,000 some places, and people making 2 million in some places. So that's just a figure. All right. Cheers, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Ike. Bye-bye.